Chapter 568. Liu Bei. Don't even think about monopolizing this mission. The Ming Luo puppets are mine for sure. The white-eyed old man sneered. Since he addressed Ning Fan as Liu Bei, it was obvious that he had seen the wanted order issued by the Vine Sovereign, and knew that Ning Fan was Liu Bei. Ning Fan was not surprised that his identity was exposed. As a void refinement realm cultivator, it was not strange for him to have a way to obtain a wanted order. Ning Fan was not afraid of being wanted by the Vine Sovereign. He flew at full speed without disguising his appearance or purposely hiding. If he encounters enemies, he would just kill them. Ning Fan's eyes swept across the area. Among the 9 puppet masters, 8 of them looked at him with hostility as if they had already recognized his identity. Only the Void Glimpse stage young lady in green robes who was originally calm had a hint of surprise in her eyes. She did not seem to expect that the elegant white-robed young man in front of her was the Devil Lord who angered the Vine Sovereign. However, when she thought of Ning Fan's intention to monopolize the mission and all the Ming Luo puppets, her eyes were filled with hostility. What will you do if I insist on monopolizing the mission? Ning Fan glanced at the white-eyed old man and said indifferently. The white-eyed old man was stunned. He did not expect Ning Fan to be so unyielding and actually ignore his threat. He narrowed his old eyes and snorted coldly. On the path of cultivation, the strong are respected. If you want to monopolize the mission, show us your strength that can convince us. As soon as he finished speaking, the white-eyed old man suddenly took a step forward. His skin withered rapidly, and his eyes shot out 2 rays of dazzling white light towards Ning Fan. When the white light touched him, Ning Fan felt his body gradually stiffening. His skin showed signs of turning into a tree. A layer of white tree bark floated on his skin, as if he was about to turn into a wooden puppet. Ning Fan had once plundered the vast cold city and seen many magic techniques of the Tree Clan. He knew that the technique the old man displayed was an extremely powerful eye technique of the tree world. This technique was called Wood Transformation Eye. It was a secret technique of the Wood Transformation Clan. If one cultivates this technique to the highest level, he or she could turn a void refinement realm cultivator into a tree with just a glance. This technique was extremely difficult to cultivate. This white-eyed old man must have had great luck to be able to cultivate this technique. With this white-eyed old man's cultivation base at the absolute void stage, he could turn void pierce stage cultivators into trees with just a glance when he displayed the wood transformation technique. However, it was not enough to turn Ning Fan into a tree with this technique. Break. Ning Fan released his magic power, and pieces of tree bark peeled off from his body. His body returned to normal, and he had broken his tree transformation. Immediately after, he took a step forward. White light flashed on his right arm, and a silver arm guard appeared. With a leap, he reached out to grab the eyes of the white-eyed old man. This attack did not activate the White Tiger Gauntlet's offensive divine ability. Even so, the power of this attack was comparable to the attack of a 4th-level golden body cultivator. Mysterious God spiritual equipment. Everyone in the hall was shocked. The white-eyed old man's eyes were filled with astonishment. He did not expect Ning Fan's physical body to be this strong. Moreover, he did not expect Ning Fan to possess a profound divinity spiritual equipment. He was a puppet master who was proficient in the puppet technique. Most of his abilities were connected to his puppets. His physical body alone would not be able to withstand a single attack from Ning Fan. He didn't have time to think. He took half a step back and slapped his storage pouch, taking out countless puppets. In an instant, 216 puppets at the peak of the soul formation stage appeared in the main hall, and they all lined up in front of the white-eyed old man. The white-eyed old man then took out a formation plate. As soon as he activated it, a massive silvery white formation diagram appeared under the feet of the 216 puppets. Traces of formation light connected all the puppets' bodies. At the same time, the 216 puppets threw a punch at the same time. The formation light flashed and the punches merged into one. Wood transformation puppet formation. The attack of the 216 puppets merged with the formation light of the puppet formation, and turned into an extremely dazzling punch. Its destructive power was comparable to an absolute void stage attack. Ning Fan's eyes turned cold. He turned his claw into a fist and threw a punch at the puppet formation. He activated the ability of the White Tiger Gauntlet and threw out a White Tiger Fist Light. Void Technique, White Tiger. As soon as the attacks collided, the puppet formation was shattered. The entire Bai city shook violently. As the main hall of the royal palace trembled, the palaces and pavilions that stretched for hundreds of li turned into ashes and disappeared. The entire Bai city was filled with the angry roar of the White Tiger. Countless cultivators were in a state of shock, frightened by the terrifying fluctuations of the battle. After a long time, the tremors in the city stopped and the smoke and dust dispersed. Ning Fan kept his fist light and stood with his hands clasped behind his back. As for the white-eyed old man, he was clutching his chest. His chi was in a mess and a trace of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. His eyes were filled with shock. The 216 Divine Transformation Realm puppets that the old man summoned were all smashed into pieces by Ning Fan. There was no way for them to be repaired. He consumed a pill to suppress his injuries. His eyes were filled with fear, and he did not dare to look Ning Fan in the eye. He was not Ning Fan's match. He knew that if it wasn't for the 216 puppets in front of him, he would certainly be hit by Ning Fan's White Tiger Fist Light. He would either die or be severely injured on the surface. The white-eyed old man did not seem to be in a disadvantageous position. In fact, he had already lost. Ning Fan had only thrown a punch with the help of his spiritual equipment. It did not consume too much of his magic power and stamina. Thus, he was still able to fight with ease. On the other hand, the white-eyed old man had lost 216 peak Divine Transformation Realm spiritual puppets. That was almost all of his spiritual puppets. A puppet master who lost his spiritual puppets would lose 90% of his abilities. He was not good at other magic techniques or body techniques. If he continues to fight Ning Fan, he would definitely lose. After losing so many spiritual puppets, the white-eyed old man no longer dared to go to the Tang Valley to hunt the Tree King. Without his spiritual puppets, the risk was too great. Now he had to gather materials again to refine more spiritual puppets. Humph! Fellow Taoist Liu is indeed skillful. My skills are not as good as yours. I don't have the face to compete for the mission here. Farewell. The white-eyed old man let out a cold harumph. He turned into a ray of light and directly left Gomong country. Tang Xiong looked at Ning Fan deeply. He knew that he would not be able to withstand that White Tiger Fist Light without sustaining any injuries. Inwardly he thought, Ning Fan's abilities are indeed astonishing. Tang Xiong secretly guessed that this punch might not be Ning Fan's strongest ability. After the white-eyed old man left, none of the remaining 8 Void Refinement Realm puppet masters would be a match for Ning Fan. Who else wants to compete for the mission with me? Step forward and show me your skills. Ning Fan's eyes indifferently swept across the remaining 8 puppet masters. The 4 Void Pierce Stage puppet masters and the 3 Absolute Void Stage puppet masters were filled with anxiety when Ning Fan's gaze landed on them. As puppet masters, they relied on their spiritual puppets to fight. Without their spiritual puppets, they would be worthless. Seeing how Ning Fan's mysterious god armor was so domineering, which destroyed 216 peak Divine Transformation Realm spiritual puppets with a single punch, how would they dare to take out their spiritual puppets to fight against Ning Fan? Their puppetry techniques were not as strong as the white-eyed old man, and they did not have as many spiritual puppets as him. Even the white-eyed old man was not a match for Ning Fan. If they fight against Ning Fan, most of their spiritual puppets would also be destroyed. For a moment, everyone fell into silence. The 4 Void Pierce Stage puppet masters shook their heads and sighed. They turned around and left, giving up on this mission. Even though the spiritual puppets that Great Master Wan Chongkong refined were rare, it was still not worth it to lose all of their wealth for a Void Glimpse Stage spiritual puppet. The 3 Absolute Void Stage puppet masters let out a cold snort and glared at Ning Fan with resentment. In the end, none of them dared to attack him again. All of them flicked their sleeves and left. The young lady in green robes was the only one who did not leave immediately. She bit her lips as if she wanted to say something. However, she sighed softly and left in the end. In the end, only Ning Fan and Tang Xiong were left on the ruins of the royal palace. Tang Xiong sighed with emotion. He sent more than 10 message-transmitting flying swords to the entire city, telling his subordinates not to be nervous. The ripples from the battle just now did not mean that someone was attacking Bai City. It was just a friendly battle. With a flick of his finger, his wood element magic power spread across 100 li. A new gigantic tree grew out from the ground. The core of the tree was hollowed out and turned into a brand new royal palace. I wonder when fellow Daoists will enter the Tang Valley to kill the Tree Kings and complete the mission? Tang Xiong asked politely. When night falls, I will enter the Tang Valley. Farewell. Ning Fan took away the mission jade slip and cupped his fists at Tang Xiong. Then he turned into a ray of traveling light and flew out of the city. The reason why he chose to enter the Tang Valley at night was because the Tree Devil clan could use sunlight to heal themselves during the day. They were rather difficult to deal with. The difficulty of killing the Tree Kings at night was slightly lower. After leaving Bai City, Ning Fan flew all the way to the east. After traveling for about 30 million li, he finally arrived outside the Tang Valley. He stopped his traveling light and stood on the peak of a tree mountain, quietly waiting for the night to fall. At the moment it was already dusk. The evening breeze caressed Ning Fan's face and the sun was about to set. Ning Fan's mind was calm. He was not afraid of the Vine Sovereign's pursuit, nor was he afraid of offending the 9 puppet masters. The map of the Tang Valley was attached to the mission jade slip. Ning Fan was carefully planning how to kill the 2 Tree Kings who were at the primordial returning realm in the shortest time, and at the lowest cost. There were countless tree devils in the Tang Valley. These tree devils had low spiritual intelligence and were ferocious. They would attack all cultivators who entered the valley indiscriminately. The physical bodies of these tree devils were tough, and they were suitable to be refined into puppets. Many puppet masters in Gomong country loved to come to the Tang Valley to capture these tree devils and refine them into puppets. A few years ago, 2 Tree Kings were born in the Tang Valley. They killed many puppet masters who entered the valley. Therefore, the Bamboo Sovereign set up this mission and ordered someone to kill the Tree Kings. Sometimes the puppet technique is very cruel. Ning Fan opened his eyes and sighed softly. When he first heard that someone killed the members of the Ming Luo clan to refine puppets, he was extremely furious. However, after thinking about it repeatedly, he felt that the act of killing people to refine puppets was extremely normal in the cultivation world. Ning Fan himself was a devil lord who had killed countless people. Thus, he had no right to criticize Wan Chongkong for being cruel. Wan Chongkong slaughtering the Ming Luo clan was no different from Ning Fan slaughtering the members of the Demon Sinister Forest, the Star Sea and the Lightning Tower. However, if Ning Fan stood on the side of the Ming Luo clan, he would still hate Wan Chongkong. It had nothing to do with right or wrong. There was no absolute right or wrong in the world. It was only related to one's standpoint. Ning Fan raised his palm and looked at his white palm. However, he knew that his palm was stained with blood. He lowered his hand and closed his eyes again, muttering to himself in silence. If there is a day when there are no more enemies in the world, I will be able to put down my killing. However, that day is too far away. The world below the 9 worlds is full of battles. The world above the 4 heavens is full of battles. Even the ancient immortal emperors were fighting endlessly. No one can avoid battles. Wherever there are people, there will be battles. Once you step into this sea of blood, you will never be able to turn back. While Ning Fan was sighing with emotion, the twilight became silent. When the stars rose into the night sky, Ning Fan took a step forward. He knew that it was time for him to head to the Tang Valley. At this moment, a faintly discernible killing intent suddenly rose from Ning Fan's back. An incomparably sharp green crystal short sword was pressed against Ning Fan's back. A petite figure suddenly lurked behind Ning Fan and launched a sneak attack on him. You have finally shown yourself? I'm very curious why a void glimpse stage cultivator like you is so obsessed with the Ming Luo puppets. Ning Fan's face didn't show any surprise, as if he already knew that someone was lurking behind him. Cut the crap! The Ming Luo puppets must never fall into the hands of a devil lord like you. A girl's voice that carried a hint of resentment came from behind Ning Fan. Chapter 569. Night fell, and the bright moon hung high in the sky. The night breeze at the top of the tree mountain revealed a hint of coldness. The green-robed girl held the short sword in her hand and pressed it against Ning Fan's back. Her beautiful eyes revealed a hint of struggle. She knew that the white-clothed young man before her was a devil, and he'd come to seize the nethernet puppet. She knew that with her void glimpse stage cultivation base, she definitely did not have the confidence to complete the mission and obtain the Ming Luo puppet. However, she was also unwilling to let the puppet fall into the hands of someone like Ning Fan. Those puppets were made from the corpses of her clansmen. She had to retrieve all of them. Even if he couldn't find it, he couldn't allow the puppet to fall into the hands of a demonic cultivator. She hated fiendish cultivators. She hated those cold-blooded and heartless devils who had killed countless people. Her hand was trembling slightly. As long as she stabbed her sword, she would be able to kill Ning Fan and stop him from completing the mission and obtaining the puppet. It was a cyan crystal sword. It was abnormally sharp, but the sword radiance was excessively cold. The sword bones were filled with dense resentment. The green-clothed girl stabbed out with her sword, but her heart was hesitating and struggling. She hesitated for a long time before stabbing out with her sword. In the end, she was not a decisive person. You want to kill me, but you hesitate. To be able to cultivate to the void glimpse stage with such a temperament, the process must have been very difficult, right? Bang! All of a sudden, Ning Fan's body disintegrated into traces of black shadows. The black shadows condensed into a white-robed young man who stood behind the young lady in green robes. His eyes gradually turned profound. How could this be? The girl exclaimed, not expecting that Ning Fan would sneak behind her. She suddenly turned around and thrust her sword at Ning Fan. Ning Fan stretched out two of his fingers and accurately caught the tip of the dagger. The dagger could no longer move forward. His skills are very shaky. Is it because he doesn't fight often? Ning Fan loosened two of his fingers and gently flicked the tip of the sword with his finger. A vast force came from the short sword, causing the girl's arm bones to shatter. She was forced to retreat for more than 10 steps before she managed to stabilize herself. She stared at Ning Fan in dissatisfaction. She was completely no match for him. Even if it was a sneak attack or assassination, he wouldn't be able to gain the upper hand. She was originally a young lady who was ignorant of worldly affairs. Her cultivation was exchanged with the blood of her clansmen. She was not good at fighting or killing. The only thing he was good at was his clan's would escape secret technique. There was no chance of winning, so he could only escape temporarily. Would escape technique, Netherwood teleportation. The azure-clothed young girl held a sword in her right hand while her left hand formed a seal. Her entire body suddenly transformed into an extremely secretive streak of light that fled towards the north, covering a distance of 200,000 kilometers. Even though his cultivation base was at the void glimpse stage, his speed was comparable to a void inquiry stage expert. The underworld wood's escape light was not only faster than the escape light of the same level, but it was also very stealthy when it moved. The person who was flying would hide in the sea of trees, and it would be very difficult for ordinary people to find the escape light of the underworld wood. With her cultivation base, even an ordinary void inquiry stage cultivator would have a hard time noticing her. Unfortunately, Ning Fan was not an ordinary void inquiry stage cultivator. Flying towards the north? Sure enough, it's the Nether Luo clan's would escape secret technique. Ning Fan fell into deep thought. Then he also turned into a ray of light and flew towards the north. Seeing that the green-robed girl was so obsessed with the Ming Luo puppets, Ning Fan already had a guess about her identity. Now that he saw the escaping technique of the Ming Luo clan, he was even more certain of his guess. This young girl surely had a great relationship with the Nether Civ clan. It was because of this speculation that Ning Fan did not kill the young lady for her assassination attempt. After a few teleportations, Ning Fan caught up to the green-robed girl, who was 1 million li away. While flying swiftly in the night sky, Ning Fan suddenly stopped and stood in mid-air. His eyes flashed with sword light. His black sword sense merged with the darkness of the night and swept across hundreds of thousands of li, cutting down all the trees within that area. Sword sense was of the metal attribute. Metal could subdue wood. After being hit by the sword chi, the green-robed girl's would escape technique was broken. Her figure flashed and reappeared above the ruins of the sea of trees. She looked rather miserable. Detestable. Is he trying to kill me? No. I can't die. I am the last hope of the Nether Luo clan. I can't die. The green-robed girl's eyes were filled with panic. She seemed to be recalling the sad scenes of the past. The Nether Luo clan had already declined a long time ago. There was no void refinement realm expert among them. With her innate potential and the cultivation resources of the declining clan, it was far from enough for her to cultivate to the void glimpse stage. It was each and every one of her clansmen who had sacrificed their souls, and would never be able to enter the cycle of reincarnation to condense cultivation pills for her, allowing her to cultivate to the void glimpse stage step by step. She carried the lives of 100,000 clansmen, and the last wishes and expectations of 100,000 deceased clansmen. She couldn't die. She couldn't. She wanted to bring the remains of the 10 void refinement realm ancestors who had fallen 10,000 years ago back to the clan and bury them. I must not die in your hands. Would escape technique, Netherwood blood escape. The green-robed girl suddenly bit the tip of her tongue and spurted out a few mouthfuls of blood essence. Her body was surrounded by a faint blood-red light. Using the remaining dense wood chi in this place, she suddenly changed her direction and turned into a ray of blood-red escaping light, speeding towards the Tang Valley. The Netherwood blood escape technique was also a secret technique of the Netherwood clan. It was not as stealthy as the Netherwood teleportation technique, but it was slightly faster than teleportation. However, each time she used it, she would consume a lot of her blood essence, and it would cause a lot of damage to her body. After using the Netherwood blood escape technique, the speed of the green-robed girl could reach 300,000 li, which was comparable to a void pierce stage expert. The green-robed girl understood that even though the blood escape technique that she used to sacrifice her blood essence was faster than teleportation, it was still much slower than Ning Fan's speed. If she does not come up with an extraordinary plan, she would not have any chance to escape from Ning Fan's evil hands. Thus, she no longer flew towards the north. Instead, she turned around and flew towards the south. The Tang Valley was to the south. It was the place where the tree devils lived. As long as she flies into the Tang Valley, Ning Fan would be besieged by the tree devils even if he chased after her. He certainly would not have the mood to continue chasing after her. Of course, this was a risky move. If the green-robed girl enters the Tang Valley, she would also be besieged by the tree devils. Now that there were 2 new Guiyuan tree kings in the Tang Valley, the green-robed girl would certainly die if she runs into one of them. My speed is not as fast as Liu Bei's. If I run into the Tang Valley, I still have a chance to get rid of him. If I don't enter the Tang Valley, I will eventually be captured by him and die a violent death. I have no other choice. The girl gritted her teeth and spurted out a few mouthfuls of blood essence again. Her small face turned pale. After a few times of escaping, her escaping light traveled 1,000,000 li and rushed into the Tang Valley. This girl isn't good at fighting. She is too soft-hearted. However, she knows the principle of putting herself in a dead end. It's also rare. There is an obsession in her eyes. It's the obsession to live. Ning Fan fell into deep thought. He patted his storage pouch and took out the ancient golden sword. Then he stepped on the sword and chased after her into the Tang Valley. It was a valley surrounded by layers of trees and mountains. It occupied an area of millions of li. The valley was filled with all kinds of ancient trees and countless tree devils. Night fell. Most of the tree devils turned into their tree forms and took root in the soil to sleep. At this moment, the quiet Tang Valley was filled with dense killing intent, because the green-robed girl's intrusion had alarmed countless tree devils. Countless towering ancient trees suddenly uprooted and stood up. They shook their bodies and turned into tree giants, chasing after the green-robed girl. In order to avoid Ning Fan's pursuit, the green-robed girl gritted her teeth and flew deeper into the Tang Valley. The deeper she went, the more tree devils were chasing after her, making it difficult for her to move forward. In the end, she was surrounded by several void glimpse stage tree devils in the valley. After Ning Fan entered the Tang Valley, some of the tree devils shifted their attention to him. They left the girl behind and went to surround him. Each of the tree devils was half human and half tree. The shortest one was several hundred zhang tall, while the tallest one was even several thousand zhang tall. The Tang Valley was filled with thick mist which had a strong blocking effect on spirit sense. Even with Ning Fan's absolute void-grade spirit sense, he could only detect the movements within 100,000 li. There were several tens of thousands of tree devils lurking within the area. Most of them were Gold Core Realm and Nascent Soul Realm tree devils. There were 11 Divine Transformation Realm tree devils, and 1 Void Glimpse stage tree devil. Ning Fan withdrew his spirit sense and his eyes turned slightly grim. There was no sign of the green-robed girl within 100,000 li. Has she already entered the depths of the Tang Valley? The Tang Valley is the resting place of us tree devils. Anyone who dares to trespass will be killed without mercy. The 5,000 zhang tall Void Glimpse stage tree devil roared furiously. His smile was sinister but his voice was hoarse. Following his roar, countless tree devils displayed their magic techniques and attacked Ning Fan. Ning Fan waved his hand, and a hurricane suddenly rose within the Tang Valley, blowing away the magic techniques of the tree devils from the Earth Realm. He spread out his black sword sense and killed all of a sudden. Within 100,000 li, sword light flashed and turned the place into a sea of blood. Several tens of thousands of low-grade tree devils were instantly annihilated. Within the area of 100,000 li, there were only 7 to 8 Divine Transformation Realm tree devils and 1 Void Glimpse stage tree devil who was dumbfounded. Void Inquiry stage old monster. The Void Glimpse stage tree devil turned around and fled towards the depths of the Tang Valley. Ning Fan raised his right arm and summoned the White Tiger Gauntlet. Then he threw a punch at the Void Glimpse stage tree devil. With just a punch, a gigantic shadow of a white tiger appeared in the night sky. It turned into a 10,000 zhang silver fist light and exploded outside the Tang Valley. The fist light spread out, turning the area within 100,000 li into ruins. That Void Glimpse stage tree devil and the few Divine Transformation Realm tree devils were all killed by the fist light. Ning Fan tapped the tip of his foot on the ancient golden sword and increased his speed to the maximum, flying towards the depths of the Tang Valley without any fear. His eyes glowed with blood-red light. His body was enveloped in a layer of faint blood-red light. He released all the baleful qi that he had accumulated in his lifetime of killing. At this moment, half of the night sky above the Tang Valley turned blood-red. Even the moonlight was dyed into a blood moon. Countless tree devils along the way felt Ning Fan's terrifying baleful qi. All of them shivered in fear. Most of the tree devils in the Tang Valley had low spiritual intelligence. Even so, they could instinctively sense how terrifying Ning Fan was. None of the tree devils dared to stand in front of Ning Fan anymore. Even the few Void Glimpse stage and Void Inquiry stage tree devils silently retreated after sensing Ning Fan's monstrous baleful qi. None of them dared to fight against him. Countless tree devils stared at Ning Fan in awe. They stared at the golden sword light and the blood-red moonlight. This was a demon who had committed a monstrous sin of murder. A demon that even the heavenly Tao could not tolerate. If no one provoked him, he would not kill. If they provoked him, they would definitely die. In the depths of the Valley of Tang, the green-clothed girl used the would escape technique again and again, getting closer and closer to the abyss nest in the deepest part of the Valley of Tang. It was like a bottomless pit, dark and bottomless. There were 2 huge black trees growing in the cave, and each tree was 90,000 zhang tall. As the green-clothed girl approached the abyss, the number of tree demons chasing after her gradually decreased. When the green-clothed girl stood beside the abyss, there were no longer any tree demons chasing after her. The girl lowered her head and looked at the pitch-black abyss beneath her feet, feeling a chill in her heart. Could this abyss be the resting place of the tree kings of the Tang Valley? Could it be that those tree devils don't dare to come close to this place? When she thought of the possibility that there were 2 tree kings of returning essence living under the abyss, she felt a little frightened. She turned around and fled from the abyss. Even though she wanted to kill the tree kings to complete her mission, she did not have the ability to do so by herself. The reason why she entered the Tang Valley recklessly this time was just to escape from Ning Fan's pursuit. At this moment, since she had already gotten rid of Ning Fan and countless tree devils, it was time for her to leave the Tang Valley. Seeing that the girl was about to turn around and leave, 2 sinister laughter suddenly resounded from the abyss. Another outsider has entered the Tang Valley to seek death. Moreover, it's a woman. Hee hee. This woman has an aura that disgusts me. If I'm not mistaken, she should be a tree demon from the Ming Luo clan. Ming Luo clan. Very good. Should I pluck this woman first or eat her first? At the moment when the two sneers resounded, two extremely terrifying auras pressed down on the green-robed girl like the sky was falling. The auras were extremely cold and gloomy, causing the green-robed girl to tremble uncontrollably. She felt as if she was nailed to the ground, unable to leave. She felt as if she had lost control of her body. The girl revealed a look of panic. This was the aura of returning essence Great Void. This wasn't the aura of 60 units of magical power, but the aura of Yuanhui magical power. Under the aura of this Yuanhui magical power, the girl only felt that she was as insignificant as an ant. She could not calm down and resist the two tree kings at all. Above the night sky, two rays of black light shot out from the abyss and turned into two burly men in black armor, standing in the air. One of them was holding a wooden sun magical treasure. It was oval in shape and had 6 holes on it. When the night wind blew, the wooden sun would let out a demonic sound that sounded like the wailing of ghosts. It had the ability to absorb one's soul. Obviously, it was a demonic sound treasure. The other burly man was carrying a giant black axe. There were black runes drawn on his face. He looked down at the green-robed girl, licked his lips and sneered. The Nether Luo clan was once a sovereign force of the tree world. They had once annihilated my Ghostwood clan like an ant. Unfortunately, after the disappearance of a certain tree emperor, the Nether Luo clan fell into decline. The catastrophe 10,000 years ago had even reduced the Nether Luo clan to a second-rate force. I was still thinking about going to the Eastern Tree Sea to slaughter the Nether Luo clan that was struggling at death's door. I didn't expect that a Void Refinement Realm cultivator of the Nether Luo clan would come to seek death tonight. The burly man's sneer did not stop. Suddenly, he took a step forward and swung his giant axe, slashing down at the green-robed girl who could not move. The power of the axe turned into an extremely dazzling black axe light, splitting the vast sky. Even an ordinary absolute void cultivator would not be able to withstand this axe light. The green-robed girl looked at the black axe light that was slashing down on her head, revealing a look of despair. She was a puppet master, and what she was good at was the puppet technique. She had been cultivating with the help of the cultivation pill, and her demonic force was weak. Even when she was at her peak, she would not be able to withstand the axe light of the Tree King, let alone now that she was being suppressed by the Tree King's aura force and could not move. The axe light was getting closer and closer. The girl's ears gradually became quiet. Only the sound of the wind could be heard. She had never felt so close to death before. Her bright eyes were filled with unwillingness. She bit her lips with her pearly white teeth, causing traces of blood to flow out. She did not want to die here. Qing Dai, you can't die here. You can't. You are the last hope of the Nether Luo clan. You carry the lives of 100,000 clansmen. You can't die before we find the corpse of our ancestor. Qing Dai, you can't die here. The girl revealed a crazed look. There was a green pearl hidden in her dantian. That was the last bloodline demon treasure of the Nether Luo clan. It contained the void fragmentation realm attack, left behind by her ancestor. It was a life-saving item given to her by her clansmen. This treasure could only be detonated by sacrificing the bloodline power of the Nether Luo clan. Once it was detonated, even the Gui Yuan Taishu realm cultivator would be injured. At this moment, the girl decided to take out the pearl and burn her demonic blood to fight against the two Tree Kings. Her eyes were filled with determination and desperation. It was filled with determination that she would not retreat even if she died 10,000 times. At the moment when the axe light slashed down and the pearl was about to detonate, a silent sigh suddenly resounded in the night sky. Then, a young man in white robes with cold eyes appeared in front of the girl in green robes. He held a silver pagoda in his hand and raised it. As soon as the pagoda rose into the sky, it immediately grew in the wind and emitted circles of silver spirit wheels. A gigantic silver halo suddenly appeared in the night sky. Within the ring of light, scattered silver specks of light gradually appeared. And in the next moment, countless silver arrows shot out from the ring of light into the sky, easily piercing through the black axe light. This treasure was Ning Fan's spoils of war, when he swept across the vast heaven palace. It was the Tower of Freezing Rain. After shattering the axe light with a single strike, Ning Fan's figure instantly took 9 steps forward like a ghost. After taking 9 steps, he strangely returned to his original spot, as if he had never moved at all. After taking 9 steps, the great force of heaven and earth shook. The aura force of the 2 tree kings was shattered. At this moment, the girl in green robes regained her mobility. Who are you? The 2 tree kings stared at Ning Fan coldly, as if they were facing a formidable enemy. Even though the cultivation base that Ning Fan revealed was just at the void inquiry stage, he was able to shatter the axe light with a single strike and break their aura force with 9 steps. His abilities were extremely powerful. The 2 tree kings were intelligent beings. They naturally knew that they could not underestimate Ning Fan. Are you here to save me? He's here to kill me. The green-robed girl was stunned. She failed to assassinate Ning Fan and entered Tang Valley to escape from his evil clutches. She didn't understand why Ning Fan would save her. Perhaps he was here to kill her. Is your name Qing Dai? What's your status in the Ming Luo clan? Ning Fan turned around and did not answer the green-robed girl's question. Instead, he asked her with a smile. I'm the current high priest of the Ming Luo clan. Qing Dai gritted her teeth and tried her best to calm herself down. She did not want to show any sign of fear in front of Ning Fan. That's right. Ning Fan was very strong. The 2 tree kings in front of him were also very strong. With her void glimpse stage cultivation base, she would not be able to escape from the devil claws of these powerful enemies no matter what. But she was not willing to give in. She would rather die. She was the high priestess of the Nether Sif clan, the last hope of the clan. Even if she knew that she was weak and the enemies were strong, she would not allow herself to be afraid. High priest, huh? If that's the case, I will protect you today. No one can hurt you. I've promised a friend to protect the Ming Luo clan for him. Halfway through his words, Ning Fan suddenly patted his storage pouch and took out a black wooden token, showing it to the green-robed girl. The moment the token was taken out, the green-robed girl felt her demon blood boiling. Her bright eyes were filled with astonishment. This is why you are. She was so shocked that she did not know what to say. That friend of mine asked me to protect the Ming Luo clan. He also asked me to do another thing, to accept the black wooden token, and become the current tree sovereign of the Ming Luo clan. As the current tree sovereign of the Ming Luo clan, I have the obligation to protect the members of the clan. Ning Fan held the black wooden token in his hand and took a step into the sky. In an instant, he turned into a black robe and emitted the aura force of the absolute void realm. He clawed at the ground and the void space with his 5 fingers, displaying the soul extraction technique. His aura force rose steadily and was infinitely close to the absolute void realm. Suddenly, he opened his sword pouch and let out the 5 petite sword spirits. Then he ordered them in an irrefutable manner. All of you, kill that sun-blowing devil. As for this axe-wielding devil, leave it to me. As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly took out the black wooden token and activated his sovereign chi. The black wooden token was a supreme treasure in itself. It needed to be activated with sovereign chi. Once it is activated, all the trees would submit to it, as if the tree sovereign had personally arrived. All the plants and trees in heaven and earth are my subjects. My country is where my roots are. Sovereign technique, plants and trees as soldiers. At the moment when Ning Fan activated the technique, all the towering ancient trees within 1 million li were uprooted from the ground and turned into puppet wooden soldiers with golden armor. Chapter 570. The towering ancient trees within 1,000,000 miles turned into millions of golden-armored wooden soldiers. Ning Fan recalled the Tower of Freezing Rain. Then he raised the blackwood token high up in the air, and formed a series of hand seals with all 10 of his fingers. In the distance, the 5 sword spirits were already fighting with the blowing willow tree king. On the other side, the axe-wielding tree king stared at Ning Fan in disbelief. When his gaze fell upon the blackwood token, his eyes actually revealed a hint of fear. He had heard of this blackwood token. The axe-wielding tree king was a member of the Ghost Tree clan. The Ghost Tree clan was once a large clan in the tree world, but it was destroyed by the underworld Civ clan a long time ago. During the prosperous years of the underworld Civ clan, this Blackwood token had another name, Tree Emperor token. It was rumored that any cultivator with a Blackwood token would produce a Supreme Emperor's aura when fighting against a Wood Elementalist, making it difficult for the Wood Elementalist to resist. After Ningfan took out the Blackwood token, the axe-wielding Tree King felt his heart palpitating. All of its Wood Elemental magic power became a little sluggish. He was very sure that the token Ningfan took out was the Blackwood token. The irresistible pressure of an emperor was being emitted from the token. There was no mistaking it. At that time, the underworld Luo clan was not the only tree emperor in the tree world. However, the underworld Luo tree emperor was a supreme powerhouse in the tree world. He dominated the tree world and led the other tree emperor forces. Most of the Mingluo tree emperor's strongest abilities were closely related to the Blackwood token. They needed to cultivate their sovereign qi and use the Blackwood token. According to the rumors, this Blackwood token had disappeared along with the disappearance of the last Mingluo tree emperor. Why did it appear here? The axe-wielding Tree King was too astonished. When it saw Ningfan summon the wooden soldiers, it was even more astonished. The towering ancient trees transformed into golden-armored wooden soldiers, and even the weakest among them was at the Jindan stage. With just one spell, he summoned about 5 million golden-armored wooden soldiers. This is a technique that can destroy a nation. One spell to summon 5 million wooden soldiers. Just these 5 million wooden soldiers are enough to destroy a country. The axe-wielding Tree King found it difficult to calm down. When he saw Ningfan display another type of divine ability, he was even more astonished. All of a sudden, Ningfan bent his palm and kept the Blackwood token into his sleeve. Soon after, he bit off his little finger and sacrificed the finger bone. The broken bone turned into countless fragments and scattered on the ground. In the next instant, the little finger was reborn, and 6 million bone-armored demonic soldiers appeared on the ground. 5 million gold-armored wood soldiers and 6 million bone-armored demonic soldiers. After casting the two magic techniques, Ningfan's magic power was greatly depleted. However, he managed to summon 11 million gold core realm puppet soldiers. At this moment, the shadow of a golden dragon coiled around Ningfan's body. That golden dragon was filled with sovereign qi. The green-clothed girl on the ground was Qing Dai. She stared blankly at Ningfan. Her eyes were filled with disbelief. At this moment, Ningfan's sovereign qi burst out. He stood in the night sky like a dazzling golden sun. He stood in the air like an emperor, and beneath his feet were 11 million soldiers who had submitted to him. He came with the Blackwood token and claimed to be the current tree emperor of the Nether Civ clan. His appearance was to protect the Nether Civ clan. His appearance was 30% handsome and 70% elegant. His eyebrows slanted to his temples. His black eyes carried the prestige of a sovereign. However, they were calm and unfathomable like an ancient well. At this moment he had transformed into a black robe. His black hair had grown longer and reached his waist. It danced wildly in the night wind. The left side of his face had a demonic pattern. His body carried an indescribable demonic aura. Is he really the current tree emperor of my Nether Civ clan? What kind of person is he exactly? I tried to assassinate him, but he wanted to protect me. Ningfan did not look at Qing Dai again. The reason why he protected her was just to repay tree spirit Ming Luo's kindness. At this moment, Ningfan's mind was completely immersed in the two magic techniques. He had used the transforming bones into soldiers technique many times in the past. However, he had never felt such a mysterious feeling like today. At this moment, he actually gained some enlightenment when he used both the transforming bones into soldiers and the transforming bones into soldiers technique at the same time. This enlightenment was something that he had never experienced before. In the transforming bones into soldiers technique, the plants and trees were real while the wooden soldiers were fake. In the transforming bones into soldiers technique, the finger bones were real while the skeletal soldiers were fake. Whether it was the transforming bones into soldiers or the transforming bones into soldiers technique, both of them contain the principle of turning reality into void. Turning reality into void was already considered as the enlightenment of the Great Void. The power of these two magic techniques was closely related to the enlightenment of the word void. The wooden and skeletal soldiers that Ning Fan summoned were only at the gold core realm. However, if his enlightenment of the word void reaches a higher level, the power of these two magic techniques would certainly increase. The wooden and skeletal soldiers that he summoned now were all at the gold core realm. As his enlightenment of the word void increases, the soldiers that he summoned would advance to the nascent soul realm, or even higher in the future. However, he did not know if his enlightenment of the word void was enough to summon nascent soul realm puppet soldiers. Or, could he only summon nascent soul realm puppet soldiers after his enlightenment of the word void reaches the void-breaking realm? There are less than 5 million nascent soul realm cultivators in the entire Rain world. If I can summon 11 million nascent soul realm puppet soldiers with these two magic techniques, I'm afraid I can sweep across the entire world with just these two magic techniques. Ning Fan raised his eyes and looked at the Tree King who was holding an axe in the distance. His eyes gradually revealed a hint of madness. The reason why he summoned 11 million puppet soldiers was to severely injure the Tree King with a single blow. He wanted to make all the summoned puppet soldiers self-detonate, and use the force of their self-detonation to severely injure the Tree King. The self-detonation of 11 million gold core realm cultivators would also injure even the primordial great void realm cultivator. Ignite! Ning Fan changed his hand seal, and the bodies of the 11 million puppet soldiers were all ignited with golden flames. These puppets rose into the sky and their bodies began to burn rapidly. They were inanimate objects. Following Ning Fan's order, each of them fearlessly rushed towards the Tree King, hoping to injure the Tree King with their deaths. The Tree King was stunned. Initially, he was still wondering why Ning Fan summoned so many puppet soldiers. One should know that even though there were a lot of them, their cultivation bases were too low. Each of them was just at the gold core realm. They were not very useful in the battle of the Great Void Realm. However, at this moment, the Tree King understood Ning Fan's intention of summoning the puppet soldiers. As soon as he saw the puppet soldiers combusting, he immediately guessed that Ning Fan was going to detonate them. In his shock and anger, he almost wanted to curse out loud. Madman! Looking at the 11 million puppet soldiers that surged into the night sky and surrounded him like a tidal wave, the Tree King felt his scalp go numb. He wanted to teleport away, but he was already blocked by the puppet soldiers from all directions. The night sky of hundreds of thousands of li was filled with puppet soldiers like flying locusts. The Tree King swung his giant axe. Each swing of his axe could split the vast sky and kill tens of thousands of gold core realm puppet soldiers. However, there were just too many puppet soldiers. After swinging his axe a few times, he only managed to kill less than 300,000 of them. He could not find a way out at all. As Ning Fan changed his hand seal again, the 10 million puppet soldiers were about to self-detonate at this moment. The Tree King's eyes widened in shock. His mind was in a mess. He thought that if he directly withstood the self-detonation force of 10 million gold core realm cultivators, he would certainly die. He was at the primordial returning Great Void Realm. He had already faintly touched the power of opening the heavenly dwelling with his palm. As he changed his hand seal, a door of heavenly dwelling light immediately appeared in front of him. He took a step into the door and hid inside the heavenly dwelling. The Tree King knew that with the self-detonation force of 10 million gold core realm cultivators, even the heavenly dwelling space would be blasted into ashes. The reason why he hid inside the heavenly dwelling space was because he wanted to use the space barrier of the heavenly dwelling to block some of the self-detonation force. After entering the heavenly dwelling space, the Tree King immediately patted his storage pouch and took out 7 mortal void realm formation discs. Then he activated 7 layers of mortal void realm grand formations to strengthen the defenses of the heavenly dwelling space. At the same time, he shook his body and transformed into his true form of a 9,000 zhang tall tree. He was a member of the Ghostwood clan. The defense of his true form was extremely strong. Even an ordinary absolute void realm attack would not be able to hurt him at all. All of his defensive measures were completed in an instant. At the moment he transformed into his true form, the 10 million puppet soldiers in the night sky outside shouted at the same time and self-detonated at the same time. Shatter 10 million puppet soldiers, Divine Devil Finger. The 10 million puppet soldiers shouted at the same time. These 10 million puppet soldiers were either wooden soldiers or bone soldiers. All of them were transformed by Ning Fan's magic technique. They did not have spiritual intelligence and they could not think. There was only one thought in their minds: to fight for Ning Fan from the moment they were born until their deaths. The 10 million gold core realm puppet soldiers self-detonated at the same time, setting off a terrifying golden storm in the night sky. In the middle of the golden storm in the night sky, a 10,000 zhang large golden finger suddenly appeared. The storm gradually subsided. All of the explosive energy had merged into the golden finger. How did that golden finger appear? Ning Fan had no idea about it at all. The golden finger emanated an ancient fiend god qi. Under this qi, even Ning Fan held his breath for a moment. Ning Fan stared at the golden finger with astonishment. Obviously, the appearance of this golden finger was beyond his expectation. The reason why he displayed the myriad plant soldiers and shatterbone soldiers technique was to make the 11 million puppet soldiers self-detonate at the same time. However, even Ning Fan did not know that when the 10 million puppet soldiers self-detonate at the same time, it would activate another ancient devil ability. This is the lost ability of the ancient fiend god, finger incinerating weapon. This is my first time seeing someone display this ability with my own eyes. Luo Yu cried out involuntarily in the profound Yin world. Shatterbone soldier's technique and finger incinerating weapon were both ancient fiend god abilities. The former was occasionally used by people, but the latter was rarely used by anyone. Even with Luo Yu's experience as a true immortal in the past, she had never seen anyone display the finger incinerating weapon technique. It was only today that she found out that the so-called weapon incineration finger required one to first summon millions of puppet soldiers using the weapon incineration technique, and make the puppet soldiers self-destruct before it could be executed. Even if it was Moksha Sovereign, he could only summon 100,000 puppets using the weaponsmithing art. Even the perfected immortals above the four heavens could not summon 10 million puppet soldiers with broken bones. If he couldn't summon 10 million puppet soldiers, he wouldn't be able to achieve the prerequisite of executing the weapon incineration finger. From Immortal Emperor Mo Zhong, Ning Fan had learned the complete transforming bones into weapons technique. With the help of the Blackwood token, he displayed the Ming Luo clan's omnipotent plant technique. The number of puppet soldiers he summoned had already reached 10 million. When he ordered the 10 million puppet soldiers to self-destruct, he accidentally activated the weapon incineration finger. Weapon incineration finger. Ning Fan stopped making hand seals. His eyes stared at the 10,000 zhang golden finger in the night sky. His eyes gradually turned fiery. That golden finger was a fiend god finger formed from the explosion of millions of puppets. So exploding millions of puppets could unleash such a terrifying divine ability. Now the power of the fiend god finger formed from the explosion of millions of gold cores was actually equivalent to the power of a first heavenly layer nirvana realm body cultivator's finger. If my comprehension of the void reaches an extremely high level, I wonder how powerful the fiend god finger formed from the explosion of millions of nascent souls would be. Besides, Ning Fan also had other comprehensions. Transforming bones into weapons, shattering millions of puppets and returning to his finger. There seemed to be an indescribable profound principle, which he could not comprehend for the time being. The 10,000 zhang golden finger was as bright as the sun in the night sky. The golden finger pressed against the heavenly dwelling space where the axe-wielding tree king was hiding. That heavenly dwelling space could not withstand the power of the fiend god finger at all, and shattered with a loud bang. The axe-wielding tree king who was hiding in the heavenly dwelling space appeared in the night sky along with the shattering of the space. He looked at the 10,000 zhang golden finger in the night sky, and was suddenly stunned. What is this golden finger? Didn't that brat explode millions of puppet soldiers? Why don't I see any energy waves from the explosion? Instead, a golden finger appeared. Not good. Even though the axe-wielding tree king did not know where the golden finger came from, he could feel a destructive force from it. He had already transformed into the true form of the ghost tree clan. His body had turned into a 9,000 zhang tall ghost tree. Its defense was extremely sturdy. There were also 7 layers of mortal void grand formation protecting him. However, none of this gave him any sense of security. Facing the 10,000 zhang golden finger, the axe-wielding Tree King had an illusion. It was as if he was not facing a golden finger, but a fiend god that had swept across the world in the ancient times. Boom, boom, boom. The golden finger pressed against the 7 layers of mortal void grand formation light, and all of them were shattered. The golden finger pressed against the Tree King's gigantic trunk, and the tree immediately trembled. The defense of the Tree King was extremely strong. Even an ordinary absolute void stage cultivator would not be able to harm the tree at all. Even though the golden finger was powerful, it could not break the tree's defense in a short period of time. However, as time passed, the bark of the tree was gradually crushed and turned into ashes by the power of the golden finger. The power of the golden finger was also fading away bit by bit. However, before it was completely depleted, it still managed to break the trunk of the tree. At the moment when the tree was broken, the power of the finger exploded, raising the mountain of trees within 1,000,000 li to the ground. Put the axe-wielding Tree King spurted out a mouthful of blood. His tree trunk was directly shattered by the golden finger, and he returned to his human form. His face was as pale as a sheet of paper. His injuries were extremely severe. The black armor on his chest was completely shattered. He only managed to stabilize his body after retreating 100 steps in the night sky. His eyes were filled with fear. What a terrifying golden finger! Even the power of a finger of a nirvana body cultivator is nothing more than this. He went into the space of his heavenly dwelling and activated 7 layers of mortal void grand formation light to transform into his true form. However, he was still severely injured by the golden finger. The power of this golden finger was too terrifying. The nirvana finger, Ningfan, descended from the sky in time and stood in front of Qing Dai, helping her to block the aftermath of the collision. His eyes were filled with complicated emotions. He did not expect to accidentally activate the fiend god ability of the weapon incineration finger. Even though he was confident that he could injure the axe-wielding Tree King by detonating the 10 million spiritual puppets, he did not think that the explosion of 10 million gold core realm cultivators would be able to severely injure the Tree King. However, when the power of the explosion of the 10 million spiritual puppets turned into the fiend god finger, the destructive power of the explosion suddenly increased, and the Tree King was directly injured. Currently, other than the void ignition technique and the steel technique of sun and moon, my strongest abilities are the weapon incineration finger. However, even with these 3 magic techniques, I still don't have the confidence to defeat the primordial void stage cultivators in a single strike. The difference in strength between an absolute void stage cultivator, who has attained the primordial void stage, and one who has yet to attain the primordial void stage is just like the difference between the clouds and the mud. He glanced at Qing Dai. Although her eyes were filled with shock, she was not injured at all. Thus, he felt slightly relieved. Then he flew up to the sky and confronted the axe-wielding Tree King. You are very strong. Incarnation, soul extraction, sovereign chi. If I'm not mistaken, you have already learned all 3 of the void fragmentation realm techniques. No wonder you can display strength that is comparable to the primordial void stage, even though you are only at the void inquiry stage. However, you are still not a match for me, a primordial void stage cultivator. The axe-wielding Tree King gradually calmed down. His eyes glinted with ferocious light. He decided to use his strongest ability to eliminate Ningfan. He could not give Ningfan another chance to display his golden finger. Chapter 571. The axe-wielding Tree King flipped his right hand, and a black copper lamp appeared in his hand. Currently, he was severely injured. It was not advisable for him to fight Ningfan directly in case his injuries worsened. Thus, he decided to use his magic treasure to kill Ningfan. The body of the copper lamp was in the shape of a tree. There were 7 copper saucers on the branches. Among the 7 saucers, only 4 of them still had a few drops of lamp oil. The other 3 saucers were completely empty. The axe-wielding Tree King activated his magic power. Among the 4 saucers that still had lamp oil, the wick of the first saucer immediately lit up with a dark red flame. The first lamp, Scarlet Lamp, ignite. Ningfan's eyes fell upon the dark red flame, and his expression instantly turned solemn. At the moment when the copper lamp was ignited, Ning Fan's heart suddenly felt a sense of danger. Without hesitation, he retreated 100 steps. Under the moonlight, his black robes fluttered in the wind, making him look like a fluttering black butterfly. Just as he retreated, a huge crack suddenly appeared where he was standing just now. What was hidden under the crack was the heavenly dwelling space of the copper lamp. Suddenly, pairs of gigantic hands reached out from the crack and tore it open. The crack became bigger and bigger. From the crack, the shadows of gigantic ghosts that were tens of thousands of zhang tall walked out with loud rumbling sounds. 24 of them. There was a total of 24 gigantic ghosts. Each of them had a void glimpse stage cultivation base. They lined up in a row in the night sky. Their ghostly chi was dense and terrifying. This is the ghost illumination technique. Ning Fan's eyes turned cold. He had seen through the copper lamp. He had been cultivating the devil path for many years. He had heard of many secret techniques of the devil path. And he had also heard of the ghost illumination technique. However, he had never seen it with his own eyes. The gigantic ghosts in front of him were not real ghosts. They were shadows that were illuminated by the lamp. Each of the 7 saucers of the copper lamp contained a heavenly dwelling space that contained numerous ghost shadows. These ghost shadows were refined using a secret technique. Each of them could only be refined by killing countless cultivators. After the ghost shadows were refined, they would be kept in the saucers. When the wick of the lamp was lit, the flickering ghost shadows would be reflected. The lamp oil that was ignited in the saucers was the oil from the human body. Each drop of the lamp oil was refined by killing countless cultivators and extracting the oil from the dead bodies. Each and every one of these ghostly shadows had an extremely strong cultivation base. Moreover, they did not have a physical body. They were just shadows illuminated by the lamp. As long as the lamp was not extinguished, the ghostly shadows would not perish. There were only 4 light saucers with oil left in them. When the first light saucer was lit up, 24 void glimpse stage ghosts appeared. If the axe-wielding Tree King continued to light up the lamp, it would definitely light up more ghosts. Ning Fan's eyes darkened. He suddenly raised his right hand and pointed at the 24 gigantic ghosts in the night sky. Although it was just a finger, it contained an unimaginable sword radiance. It was the lesser void sword art. In the dark night sky, millions of void sword lights instantly appeared and swept across the night sky like rainbows. Millions of swords flew towards the ghostly figure, with the power to shatter the void. Currently, Ning Fan unleashed his full strength. His cultivation base was close to the origin returning absolute void stage. The small void sword he displayed was enough to kill ordinary absolute void stage experts. Each of the 24 gigantic ghost shadows was at the void glimpse stage. In the eyes of cultivators of the absolute void stage, a void glimpse stage cultivator could exterminate them with a raise of their hand. Chi, chi, chi. One after another, the gigantic void glimpse stage ghosts were cut into pieces by the lesser void sword. All of them perished, but not a single piece of flesh and blood was left behind. The sword light dispersed. The night sky was filled with dense ghost chi. The atmosphere was extremely strange. The axe-wielding Tree King's eyes flashed with surprise. Then he revealed a cold smile. What a powerful void sword art. Unfortunately, the power of this sword art is still not enough to kill my ghost shadows. This treasure of mine is called the 7 Life Lantern. It is the defining treasure of my Ghostwood clan. Its power is far beyond your imagination. Condense. The axe-wielding Tree King struck out a magic seal towards the copper lamp in his hand. The light on the first light saucer became brighter. The ghost chi that filled the night sky instantly condensed into gigantic void glimpse stage ghosts. Ning Fan frowned. These ghosts were much harder to kill than he had imagined. At this moment, the axe-wielding Tree King's face suddenly turned pale. His life force was constantly slipping away. His body seemed like it was about to decay, but his aura force was becoming more and more terrifying. It was an aura of magic power that had experienced the vicissitudes of life. It was as if tens of thousands of years were flowing in his body. That aura of magic power was definitely not something that the magic power of 60 years could compare with. That was the magic power of Yuan Hui. Yuan Hui was 129,600 years, which was 2,160 years. The aura of Yuan Hui's magic power was far thicker than the magic power of 60 years. The destructive power of the magic techniques he used was also far beyond that of 60 years. Even though Ning Fan had also fought against void fragmentation realm experts in the past, he had never had such a clear sense of Yuan Hui's magic power before due to his limited cultivation base. Only when one's magic power returned to their primordial state could they break through the bottleneck of the void fragmentation realm. Yuan Hui and 60 years were not different in terms of quantity, but in terms of quality. The second lamp, green lamp light. The axe-wielding Tree King channeled all of his magic power into the second light saucer. The wick of the lamp immediately lit up with a green flame. At this moment, the night sky cracked open for the second time. 12 gigantic ghost shadows crawled out from the crack. Each of these 12 gigantic ghosts was at the void inquiry stage. Kill him. Under the command of the axe-wielding Tree King, the 24 void glimpse stage giant ghosts and the 12 void inquiry stage giant ghosts stepped across the vast sky and surrounded Ning Fan. Ning Fan raised his finger and slashed out the minor void sword. 1,000,000 rays of sword light swept across the sky, killing all 36 gigantic ghosts. However, as the light of the lamp flickered, the 36 gigantic ghosts regathered and reappeared in an instant. Then, they waved their fists and attacked Ning Fan again. Ning Fan's body was surrounded by void sword light. Every time he waved his hand, 1,000,000 rays of sword light would appear. They could easily crush the ghost shadows, but they could not kill them completely. Even though those ghost shadows could not be killed, they were not strong enough to hurt Ning Fan. The axe-wielding Tree King frowned, and his eyes flashed with a hint of gloominess. His black hair turned white, and his face began to age. Just now, he still looked like a burly man, but in the blink of an eye, he had turned into an old man. He had paid a huge price just to light up the third light saucer. The Ghostwood clan had 7 life lamps. The scarlet lamp was the first lamp and the green lamp was the second lamp. The further the light was, the more powerful the ghost shadows would be. With the axe-wielding Tree King's cultivation base, he could only light up the 4th lamp at most. Moreover, from the 3rd lamp onwards, he would need to pay a huge price to light up each lamp. The 3rd lamp, golden lamp light. As the 3rd light saucer was lit up, the 3rd crack of the heavenly dwelling appeared in the night sky and 7 void-pierced stage giant ghosts crawled out of it. When the 7 void-pierced stage giant ghosts joined the battle, Ning Fan's pressure immediately increased tremendously. Facing the 36 void glimpse stage and void inquiry stage giant ghosts, Ning Fan could still deal with them with ease. Even though he could not kill those ghost shadows, he would not get hurt from the clash of fists and sword light. However, when the 7 void-pierced stage giant ghosts joined the battle, the situation began to change. After all, Ning Fan was just one person while his opponents were 43 unkillable giant ghosts. Each time he attacked, he could only send out 1,000,000 rays of void sword light. It was not enough to kill all the ghosts, and he still had to divert some of his strength to block the attacks of the giant ghosts. The 36 Void Glimpse stage and Void Inquiry stage giant ghosts used their bodies as meat shields to resist all of Ning Fan's sword light. The 7 Void Pierce stage giant ghosts stepped on the broken limbs of the group of ghosts and swung their fists at Ning Fan's chest. Boom boom boom. With the strength of Ning Fan's physical body, he would inevitably suffer some injuries if he withstood the attacks of 7 Void Pierce stage experts. Fortunately, the moment his chest was hit, Ning Fan's body turned into a black shadow and dissipated, allowing him to avoid the 7 Void Pierce stage fist lights. Ning Fan's eyes turned grim. The 7 life lamps of the Ghost Eye clan were indeed a little difficult to deal with. He had just lit up the 3rd light dish, and he had already summoned a Void Pierce stage ghost shadow that he could not kill. Based on this, the 4th light dish might be in Great Void Ghost Shadow. It seemed like the axe-wielding Tree King could not light up the 5th, 6th and 7th light dish. If he could light them up, perhaps he would be able to summon Void Fragmentation Realm Ghost Shadows with just these 7 lights. I can't drag this any longer. If this person lights up the 4th light dish and summons in Great Void Ghost Shadow, even I will have to retreat. Perhaps only the Void Ignition technique can eliminate this ghost shadow. However, if it's just the void ignition flame from the third flap of the butterfly wings, I'm afraid it won't be enough to eliminate this ghost shadow. Ningfan's mind raced. All of a sudden, he turned into a black shadow and dispersed. He avoided the attacks of the ghost shadows and flew towards the axe-wielding Tree King. The axe-wielding Tree King was slightly shocked. Ningfan, who had turned into a black shadow, actually gave him a sense of danger. He inwardly guessed that Ningfan was about to display a powerful ability when his incarnation was disintegrating and condensing. His eyes turned cold. He suddenly bit the tip of his tongue and spurted out a few mouthfuls of blood essence towards the 7 life lamps. After spurting out a few mouthfuls of blood essence, his chi, which was already severely injured, became even weaker. The blood essence landed on the 7 life lamps and seeped into them. All of a sudden, the 4th light dish was lit up. It was burning with a black flame. The 4th lamp, black lamp light. At the moment when the 4th lamp was lit up, the 4th heavenly dwelling crack suddenly appeared in front of the axe-wielding Tree King. 4 great void ghosts crawled out from it. As soon as the 4 ghosts appeared, they immediately waved their fists at the black shadows that filled the sky. The combined attack of the 4 great void ghosts was not any weaker than the primordial returning attack. Even Ningfan, who was in his black shadow form, did not dare to take the punches of the 4 ghosts head-on. The black shadow hurriedly condensed and turned into the figure of a black-robed young man. He avoided the 4 punches, but could not get close to the axe-wielding Tree King. The axe-wielding Tree King sneered. He had already lit up the 4 light dishes and summoned so many ghost shadows. There were 24 Void Glimpse stage ghosts, 12 Void Inquiry stage ghosts, 7 Void Pierce stage ghosts, and 4 Absolute Void stage ghosts. There was a total of 47 Void Refinement Realm ghost shadows. Moreover, these ghost shadows could not be eliminated. Any primordial returning Void stage expert would not be able to escape death if they were to be besieged by so many ghost shadows. At this moment, the axe-wielding Tree King did not doubt that these ghosts could kill Ningfan. The only thing he was worried about was that Ningfan would run away in fear after seeing how powerful these ghosts were. He secretly released his magic power and performed the palm-opening heavenly dwelling technique, sealing off the vast sky within hundreds of thousands of li, not giving Ningfan any chance to escape. This young man's abilities are not weak. However, he can't do anything to the ghost shadows of my Ghostwood clan. He will die for sure. Ghosts, listen to my command. Kill him. The 47 giant ghosts heard his command and let out a thunderous roar. The 4 great void stage ghosts occupied 4 sides of Ningfan and attacked him from all directions. The 36 Void Glimpse stage and Void Inquiry stage ghosts approached Ningfan fearlessly, creating a gap for the 7 Void Pierce stage ghosts to attack him. Under the attacks of the ghosts, Ningfan's black shadow was shattered and reformed again and again. After the 4 great void stage ghosts joined the battle, the destruction of his black shadow was no longer enough to offset all the damage. Injuries began to appear on Ningfan's body. He summoned his primordial lightning armor. With its terrifying defense, he was barely able to withstand the attacks of the ghosts. Even though the primordial lightning armor was already at the peak of the golden armor realm, its defense against the attacks of the great void stage Gue primordial origin returning void stage gradually cracked under the attacks of the ghosts. The vast sky in all directions was locked down. There was no way for him to escape. The 4 great void stage ghosts were guarding the 4 sides of the battlefield. They could not get out of the battle circle of the ghosts. Ningfan took a deep breath. He knew that if he does not use forceful methods to truly kill these ghosts, he would not be able to defeat the axe-wielding Tree King. Both the weapon Incineration Finger and the steel technique of Sun and Moon were very powerful. However, they were not abilities that could kill the ghosts. The small void sword could slash the void. However, its usage of the void was obviously not as good as the void ignition technique. In the end, I still have to use the void ignition technique. Ningfan raised his finger and pointed at the void sword shadows, causing the ghost to retreat slightly. All of a sudden, he steadied his footsteps and black flames flashed in his eyes. A massive black flame formation diagram suddenly appeared beneath his feet. Countless black fiery butterflies appeared in the night sky. The 3rd fan isn't enough to kill the ghosts. I wonder if I can use the 4th fan. Ning Fan was not confident that he could use the fourth fan. When he fought against Yun Daoku, he had yet to reach the Void Glimpse stage. Thus, he could not use the fourth fan of the Butterfly Flames. When he fought against Bone Sovereign, he had just attained the Void Glimpse stage. Similarly, he could not use the fourth fan of the Butterfly Flames. Now that he was already at the Void Inquiry stage, his understanding of the Void had become much deeper. After using the two great abilities of his Incarnation and Soul Extraction, his cultivation base was infinitely close to the origin returning Great Void stage. If he uses the fourth fan of the Butterfly Flames with his current cultivation base, he probably would not be turned into ashes by the backlash of the Butterfly Flames. However, he would most likely suffer severe injuries. The origin returning Great Void stage is indeed powerful. With my current abilities, I can only kill the origin returning Great Void stage by giving it my all and risking serious injuries. Ning Fan's eyes flashed with determination, and he performed a hand seal. At this moment, the millions of black fiery butterflies burned their wings and condensed into a massive fiery butterfly. That fiery butterfly was too massive. Its pair of black fiery butterfly wings was enough to cover the entire night sky. As soon as the fiery butterfly appeared, the axe-wielding Tree King's body began to tremble uncontrollably. What magic technique is this? Why does it give me such a strong sense of danger? After all, he was a cultivator of the origin returning Great Void stage who rarely had a match for him below the Void Fragmentation realm. He had also been attacked by an old monster at the first heavenly layer of the Void Fragmentation realm in the past. However, even when facing an old monster at the first heavenly layer of the Void Fragmentation realm, he had never felt such a strong sense of danger. He had already reached the origin returning Great Void stage. The difference between him and a Void Fragmentation realm cultivator was no longer the difference in quality, but the difference in magic power. However, what he sensed from the black fiery butterfly was clearly the difference in quality and the difference in cultivation base. This Void Ignition technique still had flaws. It was not perfect. Even so, it was already infinitely close to an immortal technique. Facing the Void Ignition technique, even Yun Daoku felt afraid, let alone the axe-wielding Tree King who was just a cultivator of the origin returning Great Void stage. Kill him. Don't let him use this technique. Even if it means self-destruction, we must kill him. The axe-wielding Tree King ordered anxiously. The self-destruction of the ghost shadows was to let them self-detonate, and use the force of their self-destruction to injure Ning Fan. The ghost shadows could not be killed using ordinary methods. However, if they self-detonate, they would still die. In the future, if the axe-wielding Tree King still wants to use the 7 life lamps, he would have to kill more people and refine more ghosts. The axe-wielding Tree King felt a sense of impending doom from the fiery butterfly. He wanted to stop Ning Fan from using the technique at all costs. 12 Void Glimpse stage giant ghosts strode forward. All of a sudden, their self-ignited ghost shadows exploded in front of Ning Fan. 6 Void Inquiry stage giant ghosts dashed towards Ning Fan fearlessly and self-detonated all of a sudden. 3 Void Pierce stage giant ghosts were engulfed in ghost flames and detonated themselves in front of Ning Fan. Even an absolute Void stage cultivator would not dare to face the self-destruction of 3 Void Pierce stage experts head-on. 2 of the absolute Void stage giant ghosts wore cold expressions. They suddenly performed hand seals on Ning Fan's left and right, detonating their ghost shadows. The self-destruction of 2 absolute Void stage experts was enough to severely injure even the origin returning Great Void stage cultivator. Boom boom boom. Ning Fan was at the center of the self-destruction. The black shadows were scattered by the self-destruction of the group of ghosts. The black shadows condensed again. Ning Fan's injuries were extremely severe, and he was barely breathing. However, his eyes were as cold as a stone, unaffected by anything. If he was determined to burn his wings into ashes, he would not allow anyone to extinguish his flames. Void Ignition. He uttered these 2 words indifferently and his hand seals suddenly changed. The gigantic fiery butterfly that covered the night sky immediately flapped its wings towards the axe-wielding Tree King. With the first flap, the remaining 12 Void Glimpse stage giant ghosts turned into ashes. With the second flap, the remaining 6 Void Inquiry stage giant ghosts turned into ashes. With the third flap, The remaining 4 void-pierced stage giant ghosts turned into ashes. The 4th flap. Ning Fan felt that his physical body was about to collapse, and he was about to be buried in the butterfly flame. The level of the void ignition technique was too high. It was infinitely close to an immortal technique. With his current cultivation base, it was still not enough for him to perfectly display the 4th flap of the butterfly flame. However, he was no longer the same as before. His cultivation base had improved, and his comprehension of the word void had also improved. Moreover, he had cultivated the minor 5 elements physique, which gave him a certain level of defense against fire techniques. Even if he forcefully uses the 4th flap of the butterfly flame, he would not be burned to ashes by the backlash of the flame. All of his internal organs were ignited. His immortal veins were burning, and his primordial spirit was burning. Ning Fan's injuries worsened. His face was extremely pale, but his eyes were filled with ruthlessness. Void ignition. At this moment, Ning Fan's entire body was engulfed in black flames. When he used the butterfly flame to burn his enemies, he himself was also engulfed in flames. At this moment, the giant butterfly flapped its wings for the 4th time. An unimaginable might of void flames turned into black smoke and swept towards the axe-wielding Tree King. The 2 giant ghosts of the Great Void Realm that were protecting him were directly turned into ashes by the butterfly flame. The axe-wielding Tree King with a cultivation base at the Primordial Return Realm did not even have the time to escape from the 4th flap of the butterfly flame. His old physical body was instantly turned into ashes and dissipated. If he was in his peak state, he could still escape from the attack of the butterfly flame while sustaining severe injuries. However, he was severely injured by the burning weapon finger, and the backlash from forcefully igniting the 4 light dishes was not light. How could he withstand the destructive power of the butterfly flame? Amidst the screams, the Tree King's primordial spirit was filled with fear. He picked up the 7 lives lamps and tried to flee. Even though he was a member of the Ghostwood clan, he was not a tree demon. Instead, he was a wood element devil cultivator of the human race who cultivated the tree devil technique. At this moment he was afraid. Theoretically, no void inquiry stage cultivator could defeat the primordial return realm cultivator. The gap between the primordial return realm and the primordial return realm was already an insurmountable gap. However, Ning Fan could not be judged by common sense. The axe-wielding Tree King was scared silly by the void ignition technique. He could already tell that this technique was a divine ability that was infinitely close to an immortal technique. This technique is infinitely close to an immortal technique. If this young man can fully display this technique, he can even put up a fight against a rogue immortal. This young man can't be defeated by force. I'm not his match. I must run. While he was running away in a panic, Ning Fan raised his hand and pointed at the air. With just a single point, dense bloodlines spread out from the Tree King's primordial spirit, fixing it in the night sky. You won't be able to escape. Ning Fan raised his hand and sucked the Tree King's primordial spirit into his palm. He planted a dense restriction on it and sealed it. Then, he temporarily kept it in his storage pouch along with the 7 lives lamps. In the night sky far away, 5 sword spirits used their sword silk to tie up a weak primordial spirit and brought it back. That primordial spirit was none other than the blowing snail Tree King. Under the combined efforts of the 5 sword spirits, they also eliminated the blowing snail Tree King. However, the process of the battle was not easy. The 4 sword spirits were slightly injured. As for the 5th sword spirit, his entire body was covered in blood. His body was extremely illusory as if it was about to disappear. Little Fan Fan quickly saved Tong Tong. Tong Tong's injuries are too severe. He's about to die. The 4 little sword spirits looked at Ning Fan with a pleading look. Especially the 1st sword spirit, Jingjing. She looked at Ning Fan with teary eyes. She no longer had the arrogance she had before. Logically speaking, the combined strength of the 5 sword spirits should be above the blowing snail Tree King. However, the 5 of them were too conceited and underestimated their enemies. Jingjing in particular was even more arrogant as the eldest sister. She did not take the Tree King seriously. Due to her carelessness, she was plotted against by the Tree King and almost died. If it wasn't for the 5th sword spirit, Tong Tong, who blocked the attack for her at the critical moment. The one who was severely injured would certainly not be Tong Tong but her. Tong Tong, I'm sorry. Please don't die. Jingjing's eyes were filled with tears. The other 3 little girls were also crying their eyes out. Tong Tong's small face was extremely pale. Similarly, she could not stop her tears. Her body was in pain everywhere. She was so afraid of death. She did not want to die. Ning Fan took the primordial spirit of the blowing snail tree king and sealed it. Then he kept it in his storage pouch. Raising his hand, he carefully held the heavily injured Tong Tong in his palm and sighed softly. Don't worry. You are my sword spirits. I won't let you die. Ning Fan's injuries were also severe, but he decided to treat the 5th sword spirit's injuries first. No matter how severe his injuries were, he could heal himself with the Black Star Art. However, the body of the 5th sword spirit was extremely fragile. If I don't heal this little girl, it won't be long before her spirit body dissipates. Chapter 572. After all, the Tang Valley was surrounded by the tree demons. It was not suitable for him to recuperate in seclusion. Ning Fan carried the injured Tong Tong with his left hand. With a wave of his right hand, he displayed the void teleportation technique, sweeping up Qing Dai and the other sword spirits. Then, they turned into a wisp of smoke and drifted out of the Valley of Tang. Outside the Tang Valley, in a desolate and uninhabited valley, Ning Fan withdrew his traveling light and appeared in an ethereal manner. He opened up a simple cave abode on a mountain of trees and ordered Qing Dai and the 4 sword spirits to stand guard outside while he brought Tong Tong into the cave to heal her injuries. When the 4 sword spirits heard Ning Fan's order, all of them were stunned. Before this, the 4 sword spirits were not really loyal to Ning Fan. They had always disliked Ning Fan ordering them around. Now, in order to heal Tong Tong's injuries, the 4 sword spirits had to obey Ning Fan's orders. After hesitating for a while, they decided to obey Ning Fan's order and went to guard the entrance of the dwelling. You must cure Tong Tong. As long as you cure Tong Tong, Big Sister will listen to you from now on. I promise. Second sister will be obedient too. Third sister will be obedient too. Fourth sister will be obedient too. Xiao Fanfan, you must cure Tong Tong. Ning Fan nodded with satisfaction after hearing the words of the 4 little girls. The reason why Ning Fan treated Tong Tong's injuries was because he wanted to be responsible for his own sword spirits. Another reason was that he wanted to ease the awkward relationship between him and the 5 sword spirits, so that they would submit to him wholeheartedly. In the end, the life-death restriction was just a trick. When Qing Dai heard Ning Fan's order, she bit her lips and decided to follow his order to guard the entrance of the dwelling. She still could not completely believe that Ning Fan was the current tree sovereign. After all, the Blackwood token had been missing for many years. Now that it suddenly appeared in his hands, anyone would doubt the authenticity of this matter. However, Qing Dai could be sure of one thing. Ning Fan was genuinely trying to protect her, and he did not have any evil intentions towards her. If it wasn't for her trespassing into the Tang Valley, Ning Fan wouldn't have to fight the 2 tree kings in a hurry. If Ning Fan entered the Valley of Tang alone, he would certainly use the heaven-deceiving cloak to conceal himself and launch a preemptive strike. He would assassinate one of the tree kings and then besiege another tree king with the 5 sword spirits. This was the safest plan. Qing Dai had disrupted Ning Fan's plan, but he still saved her from the hands of the tree king without any fear. After rescuing Qing Dai, he did not even plant any mental restriction or demon restriction on her. Qing Dai's combat ability was not high, but she was not stupid. All the signs were enough to prove that Ning Fan did not harbor any ill intentions towards her, and that she could trust him. She was also not worried that Ning Fan would harbor evil intentions towards the Nether Luo clan. To put it bluntly, the Ming Luo clan had declined to become a second-rate force. Apart from Qing Dai, there was no other void-tempering cultivator in the clan. The Ming Luo clan was so weak. If Ning Fan really harbored evil intentions, there was no need for him to express his goodwill to Qing Dai at all. He could directly suppress the Ming Luo clan with his strength without using any cunning methods. Liu Bei is a trustworthy person. He said that he was entrusted by a friend to come and protect the Nether Civ clan. But there's one thing I don't understand. Who is the friend he mentioned? Ning Fan stepped into the cave dwelling and flicked his sleeve. A table, chair and bed immediately appeared in the empty cave dwelling. After placing the dying Tong Tong on the bed, Ning Fan patted his storage pouch and took out a few pill bottles and some flying swords of decent quality. He placed them on the jade table at the side. Her bright yellow shirt was torn in many places, and her plain little skirt was dyed red with blood. Her body was only the size of Ning Fan's thumb. Her small face was pale. The pain caused her to moan and cry incessantly. Ouch, ouch. Ning Fan looked at Tong Tong with pity. She was obviously a little stutterer and was very afraid of death, but she still went to save people. What a silly child. Sleep for a while. Ning Fan separated a trace of plucking finger force and injected it into Tong Tong's body, causing her to fall asleep. After that, he took the pill bottles on the jade table, took out all the pills and poured them into a jade bowl. These pills were pills to increase the cultivation base of sword cultivators. To Tong Tong, they were the best healing pills. Tong Tong was a sword spirit. Her body was a spiritual body, which was very different from the body structure of a cultivator. Ordinary healing pills could not help her heal. The injuries she suffered were not flesh wounds, but the spiritual body of the sword spirit. Therefore, Ning Fan took out the sword cultivator pills to strengthen the spiritual body of the sword spirit for Tong Tong and help her heal. It was easy to say, but the process was not. Tong Tong's body was too small. It was impossible for her to swallow a whole pill. Therefore, Ning Fan needed to use other methods to help Tong Tong consume the pills. He put dozens of sword pills into the jade bowl and dissolved them with clear water. A trace of flame appeared between his fingers, warming the clear water. Then he lifted the unconscious Tong Tong up. With a point of his finger, Tong Tong's clothes turned into ashes and her petite body was placed into the jade bowl. To Tong Tong, this small jade bowl was a huge bath. And this bowl of clear water that was used to dissolve the pills was the best medicinal bath. The unconscious Tong Tong soaked in the jade bowl. The medicinal water seeped into her wounds, washing away the bloodstains. Her wounds slowly healed, making her moan in comfort. The painful expression on her small face was slightly reduced. Her small face was bright and clean, with a childish and innocent look. She was very cute. If she grew up to be a young lady, she would most likely be a beauty. At this moment, her naked body was soaking in the jade bowl. Ning Fan carefully looked at her face and naturally did not have the slightest desire. She was just a little person the size of a thumb. Who would have desire for her? Seeing that Tong Tong's complexion was gradually getting better, Ning Fan nodded his head in satisfaction. He picked up the flying swords on the jade table and exerted his palm force, shattering all of them. All of these flying swords possess strong spiritual power. All of them were obtained from Guanghan City by Ning Fan. Even the lowest grade flying sword was at the Divine Transformation Realm. He shattered a total of 63 Divine Transformation Realm flying swords and 15 Mortal Void Realm flying swords. He refined the sword spirits of all the flying swords and threw them into the jade bowl for Tong Tong to consume to stabilize her spirit body. After absorbing the power of the pills and the sword spirits, the wounds on Tong Tong's body gradually healed, and her spirit body gradually stabilized. However, her small face was still a little pale and weak. She probably still needed to soak in the jade bowl for a few more days to fully recover. Knowing that Tong Tong's injuries were no longer a problem, Ning Fan sent a voice transmission to Jingjing to take care of Tong Tong in the Immortal Cave while the others continued to guard the Immortal Cave. With a flash, he entered the dark golden pagoda of the Yuan Yao world. He summoned his natal black star and began to heal his injuries. After consuming a 6th revolution pill, he immediately sat down with his legs crossed to absorb the medicinal power. 3 days later, Tong Tong stretched her body and yawned comfortably. Then she woke up. 3 days in the outside world was equivalent to 1 year in the 7th floor of the dark golden pagoda. Ning Fan had also stabilized his injuries, but it was still very difficult for him to fully recover. The injuries caused by the giant ghost's attack were not difficult to heal. What was difficult to heal was the burning injury caused by the backlash of the void ignition technique. The burning injury affected the primordial spirit. The main injuries were on the primordial spirit, which was the foundation of a void refinement realm cultivator. If the physical body was destroyed, the cultivator could still survive if the primordial spirit was intact. If the physical body was intact but the primordial spirit was dead, the cultivator would be considered dead. After all, Ningfan was not considered as the true primordial returning Taishi realm. He was just a void inquiry stage cultivator. Even if he used all kinds of methods, it was still too much for him to display the fourth flap of the butterfly flame. Unless my cultivation base improves further, I won't be able to perfectly display the fourth flap of the butterfly flame. This time, displaying the butterfly flame technique has damaged the foundation of my primordial spirit and consumed a lot of my life essence. I need to recuperate well. It's best if I can find a human cauldron and quickly replenish my lost life essence after plucking it. Plucking a high-grade human cauldron is more effective than consuming any healing pills. Even though I can put up a fight against the primordial returning Taishi realm, it's just a fight. With my current strength, it's still not enough to wipe out the entire primordial returning Taishi realm. Ningfan exhaled a mouthful of murky qi. With a flash, he left the Yuan Yao world and returned to his cave dwelling in the outside world. At this moment, other than the injuries on his primordial spirit, the injuries on his immortal veins and internal organs had all healed. Tong Tong had already recovered. She stood respectfully on the jade table with the other four sword spirits, waiting for Ningfan's return. Seeing Ningfan fly out of the Yuan Yao world, the five sword spirits blushed and bowed to him respectfully. Big sister greets little Fanfan. Second sister greets little Fanfan. Third sister greets little Fanfan. Fourth sister greets little Fanfan. 5. Tong Tong is a little stutterer. She can't even finish her sentence. She wanted to say thank you for saving her. She is willing to marry you with her body. When the other sword spirits saw Tong Tong stuttering, they immediately teased her. As soon as she heard the joke of marry me, Tong Tong's small face became even redder. She quickly waved her hands and denied it. No, it's not. The few little girls played around. Because Tong Tong's injuries were healed, each and every one of them was in a great mood. Ningfan smiled faintly. After this incident, the five little girls had truly pledged their allegiance to him. This was very good. He glanced sideways at Qing Dai and suddenly asked with a smile, I've killed the Tree King of Tang Valley. Now, I'm returning to Wui City to submit my mission and cross the realm gate to the Eastern Forest Sea. After going to the Eastern Forest Sea, I'll pay a visit to the underworld Civ clan. Do you want to follow me back to the Eastern Forest Sea? Or do you still want to stay in the North Tree Sea? I'll follow you back to the Eastern Tree Sea. The reason why I left the Eastern Tree Sea was to retrieve the remains of the 10 Void Refinement Realm old ancestors. Halfway through her words, Qing Dai suddenly showed a hesitant expression. She looked at Ningfan pleadingly and gritted her teeth. If I may be so bold, I would like to ask Senior Lu for a favor. The reason why she addressed him as Senior instead of the Tree Sovereign was because the identity of the Ming Luo Tree Sovereign was of great importance. It was impossible for her to recognize him as the Tree Sovereign just because he possessed the Blackwood token. How did Ningfan obtain the Blackwood token? Who asked him to protect the Underworld Net clan? She had to get to the bottom of these things. What's the matter? Ningfan possessed the mind-reading technique. Naturally, he could see through Qing Dai's thoughts. He knew what she was thinking, but he did not expose her. He just looked at her with a faint smile. My lord has killed 2 Tree Kings and completed the 5 stars mission alone. You can obtain 10 Void Glimpse stage Ming Luo puppets and 20 billion immortal jade from the king of Gomong country. Qing Dai has a presumptuous request. I'd like to purchase 10 Ming Luo puppets from you. After Qing Dai made her request, she immediately looked at Ningfan nervously, afraid that he would reject her request. Ningfan neither agreed nor rejected her request. His eyes swept across Qing Dai's body and asked, Are you a puppet master? Yes. Even though Qing Dai's strength is weak, I can be considered as one of the best in the entire Eastern Tree Sea. How is your puppet technique compared to the City Lord of Guanghan City? The City Lord of Guanghan City? Is it fellow Taoist Guang Hanzi? Qing Dai was surprised. Then she said confidently, my puppet technique is unique to my Ming Luo clan. Guang Hanzi is not as good as me. However, I heard that Guang Hanzi's master was an extremely powerful puppet master. However, he had already fallen a long time ago. If I'm compared to his master, I'm sure I'm not as good as him. Oh, you seem to be very confident in your puppet technique. However, as far as I know, you don't even have a single Void Refinement Realm spiritual puppet in your storage pouch, do you? It seems like you only have 200 Divine Transformation Realm spiritual puppets. Yes. I don't have any Void Refinement Realm spiritual puppets with me. Qing Dai sighed softly. With her puppet technique, it was not difficult for her to refine Void Glimpse stage spiritual puppets. She could even refine Void Inquiry stage spiritual puppets. Her puppet technique was very advanced. She could almost be ranked among the top 3 in the entire Eastern Tree Sea. Unfortunately, the Ming Luo clan had already declined. It was already difficult for Qing Dai to break through to the Void Glimpse stage by sacrificing 100,000 members of her clan. They did not have the financial resources to refine Void Glimpse stage spiritual puppets for her at all. Do you want these 10 spiritual puppets to increase your strength? Ning Fan intentionally asked. No. That's not it. I just want to find my ancestors' remains and bury them in the illusory grave of my clan. This is the wish of countless members of my clan. They can't bear to see their ancestors' remains wandering outside. Qing Dai's eyes turned red when she thought of her clan members who had died for her. I see. How about this? If you agree to one of my conditions, I will give you these 10 Ming Luo puppets. You can bring them back to your clan and bury them. What condition? Qing Dai's face turned red. She lowered her head and her eyes were filled with panic. In order to find her ancestors' remains, she would agree to whatever condition Ning Fan proposed as long as it would not harm the members of her clan. Even if Ning Fan proposed an outrageous condition to take her as his concubine, she would not have any complaints. Don't worry. My condition will definitely not put you in a difficult position. I just want to borrow your puppet technique. Fine. I will tell you about it in the future. Now let's return to Guanghan City first. What Ning Fan meant was for Qing Dai to help him repair his Void Fragmentation Realm spiritual puppets. Since her puppet technique was better than Guang Hanzi's, the success rate of her repairing the puppets would naturally be higher. There was another reason why he proposed this condition. He wanted to give the Ming Luo puppets to Qing Dai in a justifiable manner. The reason why he competed for this mission was just to obtain the Ming Luo puppets and send them back to the Ming Luo clan for burial. Now Qing Dai had the same goal. She wanted to retrieve the Ming Luo puppets. If that was the case, Ning Fan was willing to give the puppets to her so that she could bring them back for burial. After all, Qing Dai was the real Ming Luo high priest while Ning Fan was just the Ming Luo tree sovereign in name. It would be more appropriate for Qing Dai to step forward. Let's go. Ning Fan kept the 5 sword spirits into his sword pouch. Then he flicked his sleeve and displayed his void teleportation technique, bringing Qing Dai back to Guanghan City. Guanghan City, Guanghan City. 3 days had passed since Ning Fan accepted the mission. In the main hall of the royal palace, the king of Gomang, Tang Xiong, was sitting quietly on his throne with his eyes closed. A gentle breeze blew past. Suddenly Ning Fan and Qing Dai appeared in the main hall. Tang Xiong opened his eyes and glanced at both of them. Then he said with a smile, "Fellow Taoist Lu, have you completed the mission?" What Tang Xiong said was just a guess. He could tell that Ning Fan was not someone who spoke empty words. Since Ning Fan declared that he would take the mission for himself, he naturally had the confidence to kill the 2 tree kings. 3 days ago, Ning Fan accepted the mission and left. Since he returned today, it might be because something unexpected happened to the mission, and he had something to discuss with me. Perhaps Ning Fan had already completed the mission, and he came back this time to hand in the mission, in exchange for the reward. Tang Xiong glanced at Ning Fan's expression. When he saw Ning Fan's calm smile, it did not seem like something unexpected happened to the mission. Thus, the first thing he asked was whether Ning Fan had completed the mission. Even though he asked that question, Tang Xiong was muttering inwardly. He did not dare to believe that Ningfan could complete the mission within 3 days. Ningfan saw through Tang Xiong's thoughts with just a glance and said with a faint smile, "Fortunately, I didn't fail you." As soon as he finished speaking, Ningfan patted his storage pouch and took out 2 primordial spirits that were sealed tightly. They were the primordial spirits of the 2 tree kings. Ningfan's reply was only 4 words. However, when these 4 words fell into Tang Xiong's ears, the latter's eyes widened in shock. It confirmed his previous guess. The dispirited and listless appearance of the 2 primordial spirits made Tang Xiong's breath stagnate. Those were the primordial spirits of 2 origin-returning realm cultivators. How could they be captured by Ningfan so easily? In just 3 days, Ningfan had actually killed 2 origin-returning realm tree kings and completed the mission. Fellow Taoist's divine power is amazing. This old man is ashamed of his inferiority. I wonder how fellow Taoists killed the 2 tree kings? Tang Xiong stood up and exclaimed in admiration at Ningfan. Is the process very important? Ningfan revealed a faint smile. Haha. Fellow Taoist is right. The process is not important. What's important is the result. Fellow Taoist has captured the primordial spirits of the 2 tree kings. These primordial spirits naturally cannot be faked. If fellow Taoist completed this 5 stars mission alone, you will be rewarded with 10 Ming Luo puppets and 20 billion immortal jades. May I ask if fellow Taoist wants to claim the reward now? Yes. Ningfan nodded. Alright. If that's the case, fellow Taoists will follow me to the underground treasure vault of King City. All the mission rewards will be issued from there. The underground treasure vault of King City? Ningfan asked in surprise. That's right. Since His Majesty the Bamboo Sovereign has issued a mission, he naturally needs to issue a corresponding reward. The total reward of all the missions is a considerable amount of wealth. It's enough to tempt void fragmentation realm old monsters. That treasure vault is guarded by the old ancestor of my Fusang clan. Without him, how can I guard such a large amount of heavenly ingredients and earthly treasures in the North Tree Sea, which is surrounded by wolves with my current cultivation base? Tang Xiong explained while taking out a token. He activated it towards the throne and the throne immediately turned into a shadow and disappeared, revealing a dark underground tunnel that led straight to the underground of King City. Ningfan scanned the area with his spirit sense. There were no restrictions in the underground. There was nothing wrong with it. He could enter. At the bottom of the underground tunnel, there was a massive treasure vault. A gigantic Fusang tree was planted outside the vault. With Ningfan's eyesight, he could naturally tell that the Fusang tree was not a tree, but a first heavenly layer void fragmentation realm tree demon. This person must be the Fusang old ancestor that Tang Xiong mentioned. He was in charge of guarding the treasure vault here. With this person around, no void fragmentation realm old monsters would dare to snatch the treasures in the vault no matter how great the rewards of the missions are. Are you fellow Taoist Lu, who has completed the 5 stars mission? Fellow Taoist is so young. Your bone age is less than 900 years old, but you could actually kill 2 primordial void stage experts by yourself. When I was at your age, I was just a divine transformation realm cultivator. Sigh. I'm ashamed. Outside the underground treasure vault, the gigantic Fusang tree flashed with light and turned into an elderly man in black robes. The elderly man's eyes were as deep as the ocean. His gaze met Ningfan's even though they were 1 million zhang underground. I'm the old ancestor of the Fusang clan. People call me Old Demon Fusang. Fellow Taoist Lu, please come to the underground for a chat. I have something to ask of you. The elderly man in black robes suddenly cupped his fists towards the ground and transmitted his voice to Ningfan. His expression actually carried a hint of pleading. Old Demon Fusang? Could it be that this senior is the 8th elder of the Bamboo Palace of the 8 elders of the Bamboo Forest, in the Eastern Tree Sea? Qing Dai's spirit sense was not weak. Naturally, she had also sensed the commotion underground. When she heard the words of the elderly man in black robes, she actually wore a shocked expression. The 8 elders of the Bamboo Forest were the 8 void fragmentation realm elders who guarded the Bamboo Palace of the Eastern Tree Sea. Each of them had an extremely respectable status. How could someone with such a high status be so polite to Ningfan? Moreover, the first thing he said was that he had something to ask of Ning Fan. Qing Dai was a little surprised. She had never thought that Ning Fan was strong enough to make a void fragmentation realm expert treat him with respect. Ning Fan frowned slightly. He scanned the elderly man in black robes underground with his spirit sense, and seemed to have understood something. Does Senior have something to ask of me? If that's what you want, I'm afraid I can't help you with anything. Chapter 573. Tang Xiong transformed into a streak of light and flew underground. Ning Fan's eyes were filled with contemplation. Moments later, he flicked his sleeve and disappeared from the palace with Qing Dai. In the next moment, the two of them appeared outside the treasury that was 3 million meters underground. The underground was extremely spacious, and there was a huge treasury there. The protective formation light of the treasury was not activated. Perhaps it was because old monster Fusang was here, and there was no need to activate it. At this moment, Gomong monarch Tang Xiong was standing respectfully behind old monster Fusang. He had the attitude of a junior, and no longer had the arrogance of a monarch. Old demon Fusang was dressed in a black robe. He stood with his hands behind his back. His white hair reached the ground, and his white eyebrows were white without a beard. His eyes narrowed and met with Ning Fan's gaze. Then he quietly released his aura, covering the entire underground space. That was the aura force of a void fragmentation realm expert. All cultivators below the void fragmentation realm are ants. Ning Fan did not avoid old demon Fusang's gaze at all. Instead, he looked him in the eye. An invisible aura spread out between the two of them. Tang Xiong was a great void stage cultivator, but under the pressure of the two's auras, he felt suffocated. After taking a few steps back, he felt that his breathing had become smoother. Qing Dai was just a void glimpse stage cultivator. How could she withstand the aura force of a void fragmentation realm expert? Her hands trembled slightly. This was the first time she felt the aura force of a void fragmentation realm old monster at such a close distance. Very strong, terrifyingly strong. In front of a void fragmentation cultivator, she was just an ant that couldn't even breathe. In his dantian, the medicine soul was shivering. Within his head, his sea of consciousness was trembling and on the verge of collapse. She felt that it was getting harder and harder to breathe. She was almost blown away by old monster Fusang's aura. However, she had always been stubborn. She refused to yield in front of a void fragmentation realm old monster. She was not willing to retreat like Tang Xiong. We mustn't be afraid. My Ming Luo clan still has a void fragmentation realm enemy. His name is Wan Changkong, and he is the strongest puppet master in the tree world. One day, I will represent the Ming Luo clan to take revenge on that Wan Changkong. If I'm afraid of the void fragmentation aura here, what qualifications do I have to stand in front of Wan Changkong? I can't be afraid. Qing Dai bit her lips and tried hard to suppress the panic in her heart. Her face gradually turned pale, as if her lungs were injured by the momentum. Even so, she did not want to retreat or escape. Being weak wasn't scary. What was scary was not having the determination to defeat the strong. Just as her demon soul was about to be injured by the void fragmentation realm aura force, a gentle voice entered her ears. Then, the void fragmentation realm aura force that oppressed her to the point where she found it hard to breathe slowly dissipated. Don't be afraid. Ning Fan turned around and smiled. He gently flicked his sleeves and clenched his 5 fingers, crushing the aura force that was suppressing Qing Dai. With Ning Fan's protection, Qing Dai's discomfort gradually disappeared. She said to Ning Fan with half gratitude and half apology, "I'm sorry, it's all because of me." She knew that Ning Fan was secretly competing with old demon Fusang in terms of aura force. She knew that because she refused to retreat, Ning Fan had no choice but to protect her. However, because Ning Fan took the initiative to attack, he was at a disadvantage in this battle of aura. Qing Dai blamed herself very much. If she had obediently retreated a little, Ning Fan would not have lost because of her. It's just a small matter, don't worry about it. Ning Fan smiled disapprovingly. He turned around and looked at old demon Fusang again. To him, a victory or defeat that did not matter much was not worth worrying about. Little girl, you're not bad. Your aptitude might not be the best, but it's very commendable that you have a Dao heart that is not afraid of strong opponents. I didn't expect that the Ming Luo clan could still have such a descendant. It's really rare. More than 100,000 years ago, I was just a void pierce stage cultivator. I could be considered as a good friend of the high priest of the Ming Luo clan. You're also considered as my junior. This jade slip was obtained by me in the past. Now, I'm giving it to you as a return to its rightful owner. Old Demon Fusang chuckled and gave Qingdai a satisfied smile. He reached his hand into his sleeve and took out a damaged jade slip. He flicked his finger and tossed it to Qingdai. Ning Fan waved his hand and stopped the jade slip on Qingdai's behalf. He scanned the contents of the jade slip with his spirit sense and revealed a strange expression. Then he passed the jade slip to Qingdai. This is a gift from Senior Fusang. Just accept it. Oh. Qingdai nodded obediently. She received the jade slip and scanned it with her spirit sense. At first, she did not show any reaction. However, the more she read the contents of the jade slip, the more surprised she became. In the end, she actually bowed to old Demon Fusang with gratitude. Thank you for giving me this jade slip, Senior. This jade slip recorded dozens of lost secret techniques of the Ming Luo clan. Old Demon Fusang obtained them from the Ming Luo clan when he was young. At that time, he was the clan leader of the Ming Luo clan and had a good relationship with the Ming Luo clan. Both clans had given each other many secret techniques. During the calamity 10,000 years ago, not only did the experts of the Ming Luo clan die, but many of the clan's secret technique jade slips were also destroyed. Many of the secret techniques were lost. The jade slip that old Demon Fusang gave to Qingdai was extremely significant to the Ming Luo clan. Qingdai was naturally very grateful. Hehe. You're welcome. The Ming Luo clan and the Ming Luo clan have been on good terms for generations. It's only natural for them to return the secret techniques. What he said was just for show. Perhaps when the Ming Luo clan was at its peak, the two clans were indeed on good terms. However, as the Ming Luo clan declined, the Ming Luo clan no longer maintained a good relationship with them. Otherwise, why would Tang Xiong use the 10 Ming Luo puppets as the reward for the mission? Why didn't he directly return the puppets to the Ming Luo clan? Otherwise, why didn't old Demon Fusang return the jade slip earlier or later? Why did he only return the jade slip after Ning Fan appeared? Ning Fan, of course, would not be intimidated by such polite words. He could tell that the reason why old Demon Fusang showed goodwill to Qingdai and the Ming Luo clan was actually because of him. Old Demon Fusang has a favor to ask of me. Ning Fan thought to himself. It was human nature to flatter the strong and belittle the weak. There was nothing wrong with the Ming Luo clan not continuing to maintain a good relationship with the Ming Luo clan when the Ming Luo clan declined. In the cultivation world, the relationship between two clans was simply a matter of interests. If the forces of the two clans were not on the same level, they naturally would not have any interactions. Ning Fan did not have any prejudice against old Demon Fusang. He was just very curious about what exactly the old demon needed his help with. If it's really what he guessed, he certainly could not help him. Fellow Taoist, Lu killed 2 good Yuan Tree Kings on your own. Such strength really surprised me. I heard from Tang Xiong that your baleful qi is extremely terrifying. Moreover, Tang Xiong felt that you have killed void fragmentation realm cultivators before. I wonder if I have the honor to witness your baleful qi? Old Demon Fusang's tone was very polite. Ning Fan thought to himself. It was impossible for a void fragmentation realm old monster to show goodwill to a void refinement realm cultivator for no reason. The reason why old Demon Fusang was so polite to him was probably because he heard about Ning Fan's monstrous baleful qi from Tang Xiong. After that, when he saw that Ning Fan had really killed 2 Tree Kings and returned, he started to respect him and treated him as a peer. Moreover, he had something to ask of him. Ning Fan could not figure out old Demon Fusang's thoughts. Thus, he avoided the topic of baleful qi and said with a smile, "Senior, you don't look too good." As soon as he heard Ning Fan's words, old Demon Fusang's expression suddenly changed. Then he revealed a bitter smile. "Fellow Taoist, you have a good eyesight. I'm sure you can tell that I don't have long to live. That's why I have something to ask of you." I can't help you with this matter. Life and death are determined by fate. It can't be forced. Ningfan shook his head and said, This is not what I'm asking for. Old Demon Fusang originally did not plan to ask Ningfan for help with this matter. However, when he heard Ningfan say life and death are determined by fate, he still felt a little sad and sorrowful. Qing Dai wore a puzzled look. She did not know what the two of them were talking about. Tang Xiong, on the other hand, knew what the two of them were talking about. However, he did not interrupt them. Oh, I wonder what Senior Fusang wants my help with. If it's within my capabilities, I can help you. Ningfan was greatly surprised. He could tell that old Demon Fusang was already a person who was on the verge of death. The reason why he was on the verge of death was because his lifespan had reached its end. Old Demon Fusang's bone age had already exceeded 110,000 years. It had long surpassed the upper limit of a void fragmentation realm cultivator's bone age. 100,000 years ago, Old Demon Fusang was already a void pierce stage cultivator. 100,000 years later, he was already at the end of his lifespan. However, his cultivation base was still at the first heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm. He no longer had the chance to become an immortal in this lifetime. At first, Ningfan thought that what old Demon Fusang wanted was related to extending his lifespan. That was why he said that he could not help him. Obviously, old Demon Fusang had already consumed all the heavenly ingredients and earthly treasures that could extend his lifespan. His lifespan could no longer be prolonged. According to Ningfan's estimation, old Demon Fusang would definitely die after 10 years. Since old Demon Fusang did not want to extend his lifespan, Ningfan wondered what he wanted. Sigh. The thing that I want is not a difficult thing for fellow Taoist. Moreover, it will be quite beneficial to fellow Taoist. Tang Xiong, go to the treasure vault and take out fellow Taoist Lu's reward. Old Demon Fusang asked Tang Xiong to take out the reward halfway through his sentence. It was obvious that he wanted to send Tang Xiong away. He did not want Tang Xiong to hear what he wanted to say after that. Ningfan understood his intention and smiled at Qing Dai. You go back to the palace first. I have something to discuss with Senior Fusang here. Qing Dai was not stupid. She knew that the matter that the two of them were talking about must be extremely important. She nodded obediently and returned to the palace on the ground alone. However, before she left, she secretly transmitted her voice to Ningfan and reminded him, Be careful. Don't anger Senior Fusang. Qing Dai was worried that Ningfan would be too arrogant and say something that would anger old Demon Fusang and get hurt by him. After all, when Ningfan was competing for the mission, he acted like an emperor and did not allow anyone to take away his mission. It left a bad impression on Qing Dai. In Qing Dai's impression, Ningfan sometimes liked to stir up trouble. Ningfan could not help but chuckle and shake his head. He did not expect that Qing Dai would care about him and worry that he would be hurt by old Demon Fusang. To be honest, when Ningfan first saw old Demon Fusang, he was not afraid of him at all, even though he was a void fragmentation realm cultivator. Old Demon Fusang only had 10 years of lifespan left. If he dares to attack Ningfan, Ningfan would only need to use the mutual death technique and sacrifice 100 years of his lifespan to take away all the remaining lifespan of old Demon Fusang, killing him on the spot. His safety was not a problem. What he was more concerned about was what old Demon Fusang wanted to say next. I have a request and I hope fellow Taoists can agree to it. After the unrelated people left, old Demon Fusang suddenly cupped his fists and pleaded to Ningfan seriously. In his entire life, he had been unscrupulous and killed people like scything flax. He had never asked anyone for help. If it was not related to the rise and fall of the Fusang clan, he would never lower his head to a junior. Senior, tell me about your request first. Ningfan naturally would not agree to it without understanding the ins and outs of the matter. Old Demon Fusang sighed deeply and said with a bitter smile, Fellow Taoist, how many years do you think I can live? 10 years at most. That's right. I only have 10 years left. After 10 years, I will definitely die. This is fate and it cannot be forced. I'm not afraid of death. I'm just afraid that after I die, the Fusang clan will gradually decline. Senior, you must be joking. Even after you pass away, the Fusang clan will still be a large clan in the tree world. Fellow Taoist Tang Xiong is the current clan leader of the Fusang clan. He is a dignified absolute void stage cultivator. How can a clan that has an absolute void stage cultivator decline? Ning Fan shook his head disapprovingly. The reason why the Ming Luo clan declined was because all the void refinement realm cultivators in the clan died during the calamity 10,000 years ago. The Fusang clan had an absolute void stage cultivator. Even if their void fragmentation realm old ancestor passes away, they would still be a large clan in the tree world. How could they decline? Fellow Taoist, you might not know this. Do you know what is my identity in the bamboo palace of the Eastern Tree Sea? I heard that Senior is one of the 8 elders of the bamboo forest in the Eastern Tree Sea. You're the 8th elder of the bamboo palace. Ning Fan answered. That's right. I'm the 8th elder of the bamboo palace. I'm a subordinate of the bamboo sovereign. The branch of the bamboo palace that I'm in charge of is called the evil bamboo palace. My lifespan is coming to an end. Before I die, I want to recommend you to the bamboo sovereign and let you become the 8th elder of the bamboo palace. What do you think? Senior, you must be joking. The elders of the bamboo palace are all void fragmentation realm cultivators. How can I become one of the 8 elders of the bamboo forest? Just as Ning Fan was about to decline the offer, he was interrupted by old demon Fusang. I heard that fellow Taoist is purchasing the divine tree fruits. I suppose it's to improve your intent realm cultivation base? Old demon Fusang suddenly changed the topic. Oh, Senior's information network is really fast. Ning Fan was stunned for a moment, and then understood. Whatever he had bought in Bai City, he would not be able to hide it from old demon Fusang. Fellow Taoist Lu, may I ask what grade your intent realm is at? If the last 7 grades are enough, this old man won't say anything more. If fellow Taoist is pursuing 2nd grade or even 1st grade, then you must consider this old man's suggestion. I intend to recommend you as the 8th elder of the bamboo hall. If fellow Taoist can really pass the bamboo emperor's test and become the 8th elder of the bamboo palace, fellow Taoist will receive a great benefit. Becoming the 8th elder of the bamboo palace, you will receive many rewards, including 10 ancestral tree fruits. My eastern forest sea is rich in tree god fruit. The tree god fruit has the medicinal effect of raising one's intent level, but it can only raise a cultivator's intent level to the 3rd grade. After one's concepts reach the 3rd grade, consuming the tree god fruit is useless. Only by consuming the tree ancestor fruit can one increase their concept's cultivation. If fellow Taoist's comprehension realm reaches the 3rd grade, then after eating 10 ancestral tree fruits, your comprehension realm will break through to the 2nd grade. Ning Fan's expression was as calm as still water, but his heart was slightly moved. The tree ancestor fruit. If he wants to break through to the 1st grade of rain intent, this item is definitely a must. However, must he become the 8th elder of the bamboo palace in order to obtain the tree ancestor fruit? Chapter 574. At first, Ning Fan was moved. Then his eyes gradually calmed down as if nothing had happened. With old demon Fusang's sharp eyes, he naturally noticed the subtle changes in Ning Fan's expression. He shook his head and sighed. Fellow Taoist, are you unwilling to be the 8th elder of the bamboo hall? Why? May I ask Senior Fusang, why are you so insistent on making me the 8th elder of the bamboo palace? Ning Fan did not answer his question, but asked a question instead. Old monster Fusang sighed and explained. Fellow Taoist should know that this old man is the 8th elder of bamboo palace. I will die of old age in 10 years. Naturally, this 8th elder will have to be replaced. According to the rules of bamboo palace, the successor of an elder needs to be recommended by all the elders. After that, an assessment will be set up among the candidates and one of them will be chosen. To be honest, fellow Taoist, other than recommending fellow Taoist to take over the position of the 8th elder, I have also recommended 2 other people. Both of them are at the origin returning Great Void Realm, and have a good relationship with the Fusang clan. I didn't recommend Tang Xiong even though he is a Great Void cultivator. That's because an ordinary Great Void stage cultivator would never be able to fight for the position of the 8th elder. I heard that your baleful aura was astonishing, so I guess that your abilities were definitely not weak. Then, I heard that you killed 2 Guryuan Great Void Stage cultivators by yourself and completed the 5 stars mission. I immediately decided to give the last recommendation spot to you. Normally, only Void Fragmentation Realm cultivators could complete a 5-star mission. Fellow Taoist, there's no doubt about your strength since you were able to complete the 5-star mission and kill Guryuan Taishu by yourself. Fellow Taoist, do you know how great the benefits of becoming the 8th Elder are? Back then, when I became the 8th Elder, I was only a Guryuan Taishu. After I became the 8th Elder, I received the full support of the Bamboo Hall. 1,000 years later, I successfully broke through to the Void Fragmentation Realm. With fellow Taoists' innate potential, if you succeed the position of the 8th Elder, you will certainly receive the Bamboo Sovereign's full nurturing. In less than a few thousand years, you will certainly become another Void Fragmentation Realm expert. With such great benefits, why aren't you willing to succeed as the 8th Elder? Ning Fan did not say a word. He just shook his head and chuckled. Old Demon Fu Sang was puzzled. After a while, Ning Fan suddenly retracted his smile and said solemnly, "The reason why Senior wants me to inherit the position of the 8th Elder is exactly the reason why I am unwilling to do so." Old Monster Fusang was stunned and smiled bitterly. Among the candidates recommended by the other elders this time, one of them is only a step away from breaking through to the Void Fragmentation Realm. He is known as the #1 expert below the Void Fragmentation Realm, in the Eastern Tree Sea. This person has the highest possibility of winning the position of the 8th Elder. He is the patriarch of the Baili clan. Our Fusang clan and the Baili clan have a feud that will never end until one of us dies. Old Monster Fusang did not say anything else. Obviously, the reason why Old Demon Fusang hoped that Ning Fan would seize the position of the 8th Elder was because he did not want the position to be taken away by the clan leader of the Baili clan. If clan leader Baili becomes the new 8th Elder of the Bamboo Palace, he would certainly be able to attain the Void Fragmentation Realm one day. The day when the Baili clan gives birth to a Void Fragmentation Realm expert would be the day when the Fusang clan declines. The two clans had a feud that would never end until one of them perished. At that time, the Fusang clan would certainly do their best to suppress the Fusang clan. Old Monster Fusang was not far from death. He did not care about his own life and death. He only hoped that his family would not decline after his death. It would be fine if the candidate he recommended did not manage to obtain the position of an elder, but if he did, he would definitely offend the Baili clan. It was fine if he offended the Baili clan. After all, the current Baili clan had yet to have a Void Fragmentation Realm expert. However, one must know that the elder who recommended the clan leader of the Baili clan to become an elder must have a close relationship with the Baili clan. Offending the Baili clan would also mean offending a Void Fragmentation Realm elder, whose cultivation base was unknown. The reason why Ning Fan was unwilling to get involved in the matters of the Fusang clan was just because he did not want to get into trouble. The position of the 8th Elder could not tempt him because he would not stay in the tree world for too long. The Bamboo Palace's wholehearted nurturing was not attractive to him at all. As for one of the benefits of becoming the 8th Elder, the ancestral tree fruit. Since this fruit was given to the new 8th Elder by the Bamboo Palace, it naturally belonged to the Bamboo Palace. There must be a lot of ancestral tree fruits in the Bamboo Palace. With Ning Fan's means, he would definitely have a way to trade with the Bamboo Palace and get some ancestral tree fruits. There was no need for him to get into trouble and become the 8th Elder. Ning Fan did not make it clear, but Old Demon Fusang had already guessed his intention. Forget it. Since fellow Taoist is unwilling to get involved in this trouble, just pretend that I have never mentioned this. I will give the third recommendation to Tang Xiong, so that he can compete for the position of the 8th Elder. As for the result, it will all depend on the heaven's will. It cannot be forced. Old Demon Fusang could not help but sigh. With his identity, it was already very rare for him to make a request to Ning Fan. If Ning Fan insisted on not following his request, he would not force him nor pester him. After all, he was a dignified Void Fragmentation Realm old monster. He had his own dignity. Old Demon Fusang's lips moved but no sound was heard. He transmitted a few words to someone far away. After 10 breaths, Tang Xiong came out from the treasure vault with a storage pouch in his hand. Obviously, he only dared to come out after receiving the message from the two of them. These are 10 Ming Luo puppets and 20 billion immortal jade. They are fellow Daoists' reward for completing the task. Why don't you check them and see if there are any mistakes? There is also a jade slip in the storage pouch. It is the jade slip of the realm passage to the realm gate of the Valley of Tang. You can use this jade slip to open the realm gate. Ning Fan took the storage pouch from Tang Xiong's hand and scanned it with his spirit sense. After confirming that there were no mistakes, he cupped his fists towards old demon Fu Sang and Tang Xiong. Farewell. Ning Fan turned around and was about to leave, but he was stopped by old demon Fu Sang. Fellow Daoist, please wait. What is it? I have some things here that I want to give to fellow Daoist. I want to form a good relationship with you. These things should be of some help to fellow Daoist. Old demon Fu Sang handed Ning Fan a storage pouch. Ning Fan scanned it with his spirit sense and found out that there were 10 billion immortal jade, 1,000 tree god fruits and the maps of the 3 seas of trees in the east, south and west. Other than that, there were also many rare spiritual ores and spiritual wood in the storage pouch. All of them were items that could be used to forge and repair puppets. Ning Fan fell into deep thought. It seems like old demon Fu Sang had investigated him thoroughly. From the things he bought in Bai City, he guessed that he wanted to repair his spiritual puppets. Indeed, the things that old demon Fu Sang gave Ning Fan were what he needed. Ning Fan also knew what it meant to accept this storage pouch. Fine. I will accept these things. If the Fusang clan is in trouble in the future, I will certainly lend a hand if it's within my capabilities. As soon as Ning Fan finished speaking, he kept the storage pouch and bid farewell with his fists cupped. Accepting this storage pouch meant that he had accepted old demon Fu Sang's goodwill. With Ning Fan's personality, he would not accept someone's kindness for no reason. If he sees that the Fusang clan is in trouble in the future, it would be unavoidable for him to lend a hand. Old demon Fu Sang had a very accurate grasp of Ning Fan's personality. Seeing that Ning Fan had seen through his intentions, and even made a promise to him, old demon Fu Sang wore a gratified expression. However, after Ning Fan left, he let out a long sigh. Old ancestor, why did you sigh? Tang Xiong asked in confusion. It's a pity. This Liu Bei has hidden his strength very well. If this kid accepts this old man's recommendation, and obtains this old man's help, the chance of him seizing the position of the 8th elder will definitely not be small. Although he didn't reveal a trace of killing intent from the beginning to the end, this old man could still sense a trace of extreme danger from him. In front of him, this old man actually had an absurd illusion. If this kid had a disagreement with me just now, this kid would have the ability to kill this old man instantly. This feeling is so absurd, but it feels so real. What? This Liu Bei actually has a way to kill old ancestor instantly. Tang Xiong knew that old ancestor was never lying. Perhaps Ning Fan really had a way to kill old demon Fu Sang instantly. If this is really the case, isn't Ning Fan a little too scary? Ning Fan returned to the royal palace. With a flick of his sleeve, he displayed the void teleportation technique and disappeared from Bai City with Qing Dai. He traveled all the way to the east, passing through the Valley of Tang and headed towards the border of Gomong country, the realm gate of the Valley of Tang. Ning Fan did not regret rejecting old demon Fu Sang's suggestion. He had his own matters to attend to. It was impossible for him to get involved in other people's troubles. It was already his limit to lend a helping hand when the Fu Sang clan was in trouble. After the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, Ning Fan stopped and landed outside the realm gate of the Valley of Tang. This was the border between the northern forest sea and the eastern forest sea. A dark purple wall of light separated the two great forests from the middle. The bottom of the wall of light reached the netherworld underground, and the top of the dome of heaven. It did not leave any gap for people to pass through. That dark purple light was the realm-breaking light. Even rogue immortals would only end up dead if they accidentally enter the realm-breaking light. On the wall of light was a 10,000 zhang tall door. The door was equipped with layers of restrictive formations. The formations themselves were not powerful, but they were closely connected to the realm-breaking light. Once someone trespasses the door, they would be attacked by the realm-breaking light. Those who are below the immortal realm will certainly die. Ningfan took out the storage pouch that he had obtained from the mission, and took out the realm passage's rain world. Then he transferred 20 billion immortal jade to the storage pouch hanging on his waist. There were only 10 Void Glimpse stage Ming Luo puppets left in this storage pouch. They were refined from the corpses of 10 Void Refinement Realm old ancestors of the Ming Luo clan 10,000 years ago. Ning Fan passed the storage pouch to Qing Dai without saying anything. Qing Dai received the storage pouch. After taking a glance at it, her face immediately lit up with surprise. She said to Ning Fan gratefully, "Thank you. You're welcome. If I have something to ask of you in the future, just don't refuse me." Ning Fan said with a smile. Qing Dai nodded and replied, "Let's go." Ning Fan pressed the jade slip on the path of Broken World. A ray of purple light suddenly flew out from the slip and went into the giant door. The giant door shook violently and a small gap was opened. The ground trembled violently, raising a large amount of smoke and dust. At the moment when a small gap appeared on the giant door, Ning Fan flicked his sleeve. Together with Qing Dai, they turned into traces of smoke and drifted into the realm gate. As the traveling light faded, the two of them landed on a dark purple path of light. It was the realm gate that led to the Eastern Tree Sea. After the two of them entered the realm gate, the giant door slowly closed. Follow this realm gate all the way. There is a teleportation formation at the end of the realm gate. It can teleport you to the boundary of the Eastern Tree Sea. It was not Qing Dai's first time passing through the realm gate. You go first. I still have something to deal with." Ning Fan suddenly halted his footsteps. With a frown, he stopped walking on the realm gate. "You have something to deal with? Then hurry up. I will wait for you at the Eastern Tree Sea." Qing Dai was stunned. She did not know what Ning Fan meant. Her eyes were filled with confusion. She continued to walk forward and entered the teleportation formation at the end of the realm gate. After Qing Dai left, Ning Fan suddenly turned around, and his cold eyes swept across the area behind him. "Are you still not going to come out? Do all the members of the Vine Sovereign like to hide like this?" As soon as Ning Fan spoke, a disdainful laughter resounded in the empty place. "Hiding the head and showing the tail? You're just a void inquiry stage cultivator. Do you think you're worthy of me hiding and scheming against you? I just don't want to kill you on the realm gate." Amidst the laughter, a lady with waist-length hair and pink robes appeared on the realm gate. Her eyes were beautiful, but they were filled with cold killing intent. There was a pink sword pouch tied around her waist. Her body was surrounded by traces of sword intent. The sword intent intertwined with each other like vines and grew endlessly. It was the pure vine with sword intent. Her aura force was like the heavens. The void where she stood trembled slightly. She was a sword cultivator at the first heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm. "I am the palace lord of the Vine Sovereign's Purple Vine Palace, Tung Xianro. Today, I came here to kill you, Liu Bei Dai." A sword cultivator? Or a woman? Ning Fan's lips curled into a mocking smile. He had already expected that the subordinates of the Vine Sovereign would not let him go so easily. He was afraid that they would ambush him at the 6 great realm gates. However, he did not expect that he would be ambushed by a void fragmentation realm female sword cultivator. How was this an ambush? It was clearly a huge gift. A void fragmentation realm cauldron that was delivered to his doorstep. Chapter 575. There were a total of 6 realm gates at the border of the Northern Forest Sea and the Eastern Forest Sea. Outside the first realm gate, a pink sound-transmitting sword light suddenly came to the side of a towering ancient tree. With a flash of brilliance, the ancient tree turned into a void fragmentation realm cultivator, who had the appearance of a big-headed boy. The big-headed boy was slightly surprised. He pointed at the flying sword and said to himself, "Tung Xianro's voice transmission." After listening to the sound transmission, the big-headed boy sneered. "Tung Xianro has taken advantage of him. That Liu Bei will definitely die after colliding with Tung Xianro. There is no need to wait." Outside the second realm gate, A treant covered in leaves also received a voice transmission flying sword. He fell into Tung Xianrou's hands? Unfortunately, this great merit was picked up by Tung Xianrou. At the 4th, 5th, and 6th realm gates, the 6 origin returning Great Void Realm cultivators all received the message flying swords. They either had expressions of joy or regret. All of them turned into streaks of light and left the realm gate, not waiting any longer. There's no need to wait. Since Liu Bei has fallen into the hands of Palace Master Xianrou, it's impossible for him to survive. He will definitely die in the 3rd realm gate. There's no need for us to wait in vain again. West Tree Sea Vine King Hall. A stern-looking middle-aged man clad in rattan armor sat on a throne with a pink voice transmission flying sword in his hand. Has that Liu Bei fallen into the hands of Xianrou? Xianrou is the only female void fragmentation realm cultivator under my command. Even though she is a woman, her abilities are not any weaker than a man's. Her sword techniques are especially powerful. She was bestowed the surname Tung by me. With her around, Liu Bei will definitely die. The 3rd realm gate, the realm gate of the Valley of Tang, on the realm path. The corners of Ning Fan's mouth curled upwards and he stared at Tung Xianrou mockingly. If the ones who ambushed him were other void fragmentation realm experts or void pierce stage experts at the origin returning realm or void pierce stage, Ning Fan would have a tough battle. However, it just so happened that the person who came was a beautiful female sword cultivator, and she was purely here to die. The mockery in Ning Fan's eyes was not concealed at all. When Tung Xianrou saw that expression, it immediately turned into a trace of anger. What did she see? She actually saw a trace of contempt in Ning Fan's eyes. Ning Fan was just a void inquiry stage junior. He actually looked down on her, a void fragmentation realm sword cultivator. Wasn't he being too arrogant? That's right. If he wasn't an extremely arrogant person, how would he dare to kill the Vine Sovereign's disciple? However, when she thought about it, she thought to herself, could Ning Fan be trying to provoke her on purpose? Because he knew that he was no match for a void fragmentation realm cultivator, he purposely infuriated her and tried to find a chance to escape while she was angry? Don't try to provoke me. That will only make your death worse. Tung Xianrou elegantly raised one of her hands and pointed her finger at Ning Fan. Her wood elemental demonic power spread out, turning into millions of green sword lights and slashed at Ning Fan. This was just a casual attack from her, but it was enough to kill an ordinary grand virtual realm expert. She did not think that Ning Fan would be able to block her attack at all. Thus, she raised her neck proudly, waiting for Ning Fan to die under the million sword lights. Momo, Ning Fan looked at the sword light that was coming towards him. He did not try to dodge it. Instead, he just smiled and called out the name of a little girl. Tung Xianrou was stunned. She did not know what kind of strange incantation Ning Fan was chanting. In the next moment, an ancient sword will swept across the realm path, and the millions of sword lights that she had slashed out collapsed without warning. Strong winds swept across the realm path, causing Ning Fan's black hair and white robes to flutter. He still looked calm and composed, as if he had broken all of Tung Xianrou's sword lights without even making a move. Little Fan, don't be afraid. Second sister will help you beat her up. The arrogant voice of the second sword spirit came from the sword pouch. Of course, it was a telepathic message. Only Ning Fan could hear it. Her ability specialized in breaking people's sword lights. Her opponent was just a first heavenly layer void fragmentation realm sword cultivator. There was no need for her to be afraid of him at all. How is this possible? Tung Xianrou was completely stunned. Her beautiful eyes were filled with disbelief. If Ning Fan had used some kind of ability to break her sword technique, she would have accepted it. After all, it was just a sword light that she casually threw out. If Ning Fan uses all of his means, it would not be surprising for him to be able to block it. However, Tung Xianrou believed her own eyes. She did not see wrongly. Ning Fan did not move from the beginning to the end. He just used his sword will to break her sword light. Strange. This is really strange. A Void Inquiry Stage Junior was able to break her sword light just by chanting a strange incantation without even moving his body. Wait. A strange incantation? Tung Xianrou's beautiful eyes turned solemn. She seemed to have recalled something. She was a rogue cultivator. Her innate talent in the Tao of Sword was astonishing. She had killed countless people in her life. With the sword in her hand, she gained the recognition of the Vine Sovereign and was appointed as the Palace Lord of the Purple Vine Palace. She read a lot of books. She would read all the ancient books that were related to sword techniques. She would even read the strange stories that mortals used to entertain themselves. As long as it was related to sword techniques, she would also read it. Those strange stories were just idle books among idle books, and had nothing to do with cultivation. However, Tung Xianro firmly believed that any ordinary and simple things contain the most mysterious sword principles. Comprehending by analogy would instead help to improve one's Tao of Sword. She had once flipped through a strange book written by a mortal. It mentioned a mysterious swordsmanship called the Sword of Speech. The so-called Sword of Speech was an immortal technique of an immortal that was conceived by a mortal scholar. Immortals would use their words as swords, and their words would be like swords that could slay all living beings. Tung Xianro originally did not believe that there was such a sword technique called Sword of Speech in this world. Now that she saw Ning Fan chanting a strange incantation, and suddenly emitting a terrifying sword intent, she immediately had a guess. Humph, Junior. What you are using is the Sword of Speech technique, isn't it? She thought that she had seen through Ning Fan's divine ability. However, she did not expect that her words would make Ning Fan dumbfounded. Sword of Speech. What is that? Humph. You don't have to pretend anymore. I have already seen through all of your divine abilities. It's just a mere sword of speech. It's not worth mentioning at all. You use words as a sword. Let's see whether your sword of speech is faster, or my purple vine sword is faster. Tung Xianro patted her sword pouch, and a purple wooden sword that was made from purple vines appeared in her hand. Wooden swords were not as sharp as metal swords. However, they were better than metal swords in other areas such as divine abilities and sword intent. What Yin Tianjua was good at was a sharp sword technique that could destroy 10,000 enemies with a single sword. As for Tung Xianro, what she was good at was a sword technique that could transform all living things. Purple Vine Sword Formation, Divine Snake. Tung Xianro performed a hand seal with her left hand, and held the sword with her right hand. She pointed the tip of the sword at Ning Fan, and her sword intent spread out like clouds. All of a sudden, the passage of the world trembled violently, and a gigantic purple sword diagram appeared. Countless purple vines suddenly grew out of the passage beneath Ning Fan's feet. The vines coiled like snakes and the vines were as sharp as swords. Countless purple vines intertwined with each other, forming a cage of purple vines that was several hundred zhang around Ning Fan. Those purple vines were unusually sharp. They were formed from the purest sword qi. Even a great void stage cultivator would be injured upon coming into contact with them. A moment of carelessness could even cause one to directly die in the sword formation. In the cage of purple vines, countless purple vines suddenly transformed into purple sword snakes. In this narrow space where it was difficult to even turn one's body, Ning Fan had no way to dodge the attacks from the countless sword snakes. Of course, he did not plan to dodge them either. Hua Hua. He calmly called out the name of the fourth sword spirit. Inside the sword pouch, Hua Hua, who was dressed in red robes, immediately released her unique sword intent. The sword intent that was filled with vicissitudes spread out. The countless sword snakes immediately trembled and collapsed. The purple vine's cage immediately withered. A moment later, it turned into ashes and dissipated. As for the gigantic sword diagram beneath Ning Fan's feet, it shattered into countless fragments of the formation diagram under Hua Hua's sword intent. How is this possible? Tung Xianro's face was filled with astonishment. If her first attack was just a casual attack from Ning Fan, and it was broken by his sword of words, she could still accept it. However, during her second attack, even though she did not use her strongest trump card, she was definitely serious about it. The advantage of this purple vine sword formation lay in the fact that it was extremely fast to form. Under unexpected circumstances, it could even kill a great void stage cultivator in an instant. Even a first heavenly layer void fragmentation realm cultivator would inevitably suffer severe injuries if he is careless and gets trapped in the formation. This purple vine sword formation had also been broken by a few void fragmentation realm experts before. However, all of them had to leave the range of the sword diagram before the formation was formed. No one was as relaxed as Ning Fan. He stood leisurely in the sword formation and used the most direct and forceful method to directly break the entire purple vine's sword diagram. What a powerful sword of words! At this moment, Tung Xianro paid unprecedented attention to Ning Fan. She almost regarded him as the strongest sword cultivator she has ever met in her life. Even though this young man is just a void inquiry stage expert, his attainments in the sword of words have already reached perfection. I can only kill him by using my trump card. Fortunately, I met this young man and I can see through his sword of words technique. Perhaps I still have a chance of winning. If it's someone else who doesn't know his sword of words technique, they would probably die without a burial place in just a single exchange. Humph. This Liu Bei is really unlucky to have met me. Only I, a sword cultivator, have the chance to break his sword of words. The more Tung Xianro thought about it, the worse her situation became. If Ning Fan could hear her inner thoughts, he would certainly not know whether to laugh or cry. He did not use any ability at all, nor did he use his sword of words technique. He was just ordering the 5 swords to attack Tung Xianro. That was all. He just wanted Tung Xianro to keep attacking until her demon power is almost depleted. Then he would rush forward and use his bewitching technique to eliminate her. The 5 sword spirits were bullying Tung Xianro's identity as a sword cultivator, while Ning Fan was bullying Tung Xianro's identity as a woman. If they fight face to face, Ning Fan was definitely not a match for a void fragmentation realm cultivator. He could only rely on Luo Yu's strength to fight Tung Xianro. However, he would certainly be severely injured after the battle. That was not worth it. Obviously, it would be safer to borrow the strength of the 5 sword spirits. Liu Bei, I have to admit that you are very strong. There aren't many sword cultivators in the tree world, but you are a rare sword cultivator genius. You can even use the sword of words technique. To be honest, I actually feel a little reluctant to kill you. However, you have angered the Vine Sovereign. If I don't kill you, she will kill me. If you die, you don't have to hate me. If you want to hate someone, you should hate the Vine Sovereign. This ancient sword is the strongest flying sword that the Vine Sovereign has given me. It was accidentally lost in the tree world by a rogue immortal sword cultivator, who was roaming the 9 worlds hundreds of thousands of years ago. This sword is called Emperor Xia's sword. It is a mid-grade immortal void realm flying sword. Normally, only a 3rd heavenly layer void fragmentation realm cultivator can use a flying sword of this level. Only a 3rd heavenly layer void fragmentation realm cultivator can withstand a strike from this sword. Even if a cultivator at the 2nd heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm is hit by this sword, he will either die or be severely injured. Tung Xianro kept the wisteria sword and patted her sword pouch, taking out a thin golden sword in her hand. The appearance of this flying sword was obviously different from ordinary flying swords. The blade of the sword was very narrow and the body of the sword was engraved with the mark of a dragon, giving off the majesty of a sovereign being. Obviously, the rogue immortal who used this sword in the past must be a sovereign being. Tung Xianro looked at Ning Fan with a complicated expression. Then, she gritted her teeth and performed a hand seal with her fingers. Her face gradually turned pale. Obviously, using the flying sword that was at a higher cultivation level than her had drained a lot of her demon power. Gradually, she began to feel weak. In order to activate this sword, she had nearly used up 90% of her demon power. As soon as this flying sword appears, even a cultivator at the 2nd heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm would be in mortal danger. Liu Bei, don't be my enemy in your next life. Quick. As Tung Xianro pointed her finger, the Emperor Xia's sword turned into an incomparable golden sword light and shot towards Ning Fan. The sword light of the flying sword was too fast. It was even faster than the speed of a 2nd heavenly layer void fragmentation realm cultivator. If Ning Fan relied on his own techniques, he would not be able to escape from it at all. He took a deep look at Tung Xianro. This lady was definitely an expert sword cultivator. Even in the tree world where sword cultivators were rare, she could still cultivate to such a level. If this lady was in the sword world, she might have already become the sword sovereign of a generation. Unfortunately, this talented sword cultivator had unfortunately bumped into Ning Fan. Was it her misfortune or her fortune? Tong Tong. As soon as Ning Fan muttered the name of the fifth sword spirit, the little stutterer Tong Tong immediately released her sword intent, which was filled with vicissitudes of life. Under this sword intent, the golden flying sword, which was initially unstoppable, immediately trembled violently and fell from the sky. Unfortunately, Tong Tong did not manage to shatter this flying sword. It was probably because the grade of this flying sword was too high. However, Tong Tong's sword intent specialized in restraining flying swords. Even though she did not destroy the flying sword directly, she sealed it, preventing it from moving at all. How is this possible? Tung Xianro revealed a terrified expression for the first time. She could not imagine that Emperor Xiao's sword, which could even injure a cultivator at the second heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm, was actually blocked by Ning Fan's sword word technique. What a terrifying sword word technique. It could even block Emperor Xiao's sword. Doesn't this mean that Ning Fan could fight against a cultivator at the third heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm, with just his sword word technique? This young man is certainly not a void inquiry stage cultivator. He must be an old monster at the second heavenly layer, or even the third heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm, who is hiding his cultivation base on purpose. Yes, that must be the case. If he isn't an old monster at the second or third heavenly layer of the void fragmentation realm, who would dare to offend the Vine Sovereign? I'm not a match for him. This is bad. I must escape. Tung Xianro gritted her teeth and wanted to escape. However, she realized that the realm gate which she came from had already been closed. She could not return to the northern Tree Sea. Her only way to escape was to pass through the realm gate and enter the eastern Tree Sea. However, the way to the eastern Tree Sea was blocked by Ning Fan. If she wants to escape, she would still need to fight him. Just as she was hesitating, she suddenly saw Ning Fan summoning a cloak and vanishing on the spot. Tung Xianro knew that Ning Fan must have concealed himself with the help of a spiritual equipment. However, this spiritual equipment was a profound divinity spiritual equipment. Even with her spirit sense, it would be difficult for her to detect Ning Fan's traces in a short period of time. She had no idea where he was hiding at all. She forced herself to calm down. She did not even dare to pick up Emperor Xia's sword. All of a sudden, her body exploded into 17 rays of sword light, and flew towards the teleportation formation of the Eastern Tree Sea at the same time. This technique was called 17 Broken Swords. In essence, it was a type of incarnation technique. When her broken body turned into 17 rays of sword light, Tung Xianro would not be harmed even if all the other sword lights were destroyed. She split into 17 rays of sword light to escape. As long as one of them was not destroyed, Tung Xianro would not be harmed even if all the other sword lights were destroyed. Mo, it's still you. Ning Fan ordered the second sword spirit to attack again. Mo was extremely happy. It was already her second time attacking. It could be considered as her second contribution. Jingjing and Shui did not attack at all. After all, Tung Xianro did not use her sword force and sword intent. She could not break them even if she wanted to. Mo proudly spread out her sword intent, covering the entire world passage. At the same moment, the 17 sword lights that Tung Xianro had transformed into shattered at the same time. Turning back into the pink-clothed woman, she fell heavily on the world passage with blood seeping from the corner of her mouth. Her injuries were not light. Not good. She had just fallen to the ground, so her demonic energy was in a mess and she couldn't circulate it at all. At this time, Ning Fan's invisibility suddenly appeared beside her. His left hand was using the Yin plucking finger while his right hand was using the Yin imprisoning rope. They struck her body at the same time. In an instant, Tung Xianro's delicate body went limp, and she lost all of her beast power. This is charm spell. Tung Xianro's face turned pale with fright. She did not expect that Ning Fan was not only proficient in the sword speech technique, but also the bewitching technique. Wait, charm. If Ning Fan is proficient in bewitching techniques, doesn't it mean that he is also proficient in the plucking technique? Doesn't this mean that after I capture her, she will become a void fragmentation realm human cauldron full of primordial een? Liu Bei, I didn't expect that I would fall into your hands. Your sort of speech art is divine. I've lost. Give me a quick death, kill me. If I kill you, wouldn't I be wasting a human cauldron for nothing? Ning Fan's expression was indifferent. He continuously pointed his plucking finger. With his current cultivation base, even a void fragmentation realm female cultivator would not be able to withstand his plucking finger. Tung Xianrou's vision turned blurry. She was tricked by the 5 sword spirits. This lady is quite interesting. Ning Fan could not help but laugh. He did not expect to capture Tung Xianrou so easily. The 5 sword spirits could only blame themselves for being the nemesis of sword cultivators. After setting up layers of restrictive spells on Tung Xianrou's body, Ning Fan locked her up in the Cauldron World's Penance Palace. The Penance Palace had been modified. The female cultivators who were locked up in the palace would fall into a coma for a long time. With the level of the small Kiliacosm in the Cauldron World, even a void fragmentation realm female cultivator would end up in a coma after being locked up in the Penance Palace. Since he had captured this lady, he would either keep her as a helper or pluck her completely. Either way, she would be useful to him. After dealing with the lady, Ning Fan waved his hand and summoned Emperor Xia's sword which had fallen to the ground into his hand. He caressed the dragon-shaped engravings on the body of the sword, and a strange feeling rose in his heart. He kept having the feeling that this Emperor Xia's sword gave him a strange sense of familiarity. However, he had no idea why it felt so familiar. It's a little strange. However, I have to say that this is a good sword. It can even severely injure a second heavenly layer void fragmentation realm cultivator. Unfortunately, I am far from being able to activate this sword. Ning Fan sighed. Little Fanfan, if you don't want this flying sword, just give it to us. We don't have any flying swords that can accommodate the body of a sword spirit, Jingjing suggested. Little Fanfan, I have already helped you twice. Why don't you give me some rewards? Mo said coyly. Little Fanfan, I want this sword. I want it. I want it. Shui was acting cute. Little Fanfan, I will help you to comprehend the sword techniques in this sword. How about that? Hua tried to make a profit. Want. Tong Tong stuttered. She decided to only say the most crucial word. Oh, you guys want this Emperor Xia's sword? Ning Fan's eyes suddenly moved. This sword was useless to him anyway. Let's just let the 5 sword spirits play with it. If they can really create something useful, it would be worth looking forward to. With a flash of traveling light, Ning Fan went straight to the other end of the passage. Unbeknownst to him, the moment he captured Tung Xianrou, the Vine Sovereign could no longer use the Vine Seed to sense her whereabouts. Tung Xianrou has been captured. She has been captured by Liu Bei. The Vine Sovereign was enraged. Besides feeling furious, she also found it unbelievable. She could not imagine how a mere Void Inquiry Stage Junior could capture Tung Xianrou, who was at the first heavenly layer of the Void Fragmentation realm. She suddenly felt that she had somewhat underestimated Ning Fan in the past. Tell Wan Chongkong to come and see me. The Vine Sovereign's eyes flashed with killing intent. Chapter 576. Ning Fan walked to the end of the realm passage. There was a teleportation formation which was emitting purple light. As soon as he stepped into the teleportation formation, the scenery in front of him immediately changed. After a few breaths of time, a ray of purple light flashed in the sky above a sea of trees in the eastern forest sea. Then Ning Fan's figure emerged. Qing Dai was waiting for Ning Fan on the peak of a mountain not far away. Seeing Ning Fan's arrival, he immediately went forward to greet him. Brother Liu, are you alright? Did something happen in the world passage? Qing Dai changed the way she addressed him and asked with concern. After spending a few days together, the relationship between her and Ning Fan had become much closer. They were no longer as distant as they were in the beginning. This concerned greeting came from the bottom of his heart. It's just a small matter. It's already been resolved. Ning Fan gave Qing Dai a reassuring look. Then, he took out the map of the Eastern Tree Sea from his storage pouch, and sent his spirit sense into it. He knew that this was the country of dragon capture. And there was a dragon capture realm gate that was connected to the Valley of Tang realm gate. Starting from the country of dragon capture, and heading northeast, after passing through 42 cultivation countries, one would arrive at the void-level cultivation country where the underworld tree clan resided, the country of Cold Azure. In the past, the largest tree clan in Cold Azure Kingdom was the Nethersiv clan. But now the Nethersiv clan was only a second-rate force. In the past, when my Nether Luo clan was at its peak, we dominated the Cold Azure country and controlled the tree world. We made friends with all the experts in the world, but we also offended many tree clans. Now our clan has declined and no one cares about our old friends. Cultivators from other clans often come to bully us. When our clan was at its peak, none of the cultivators in the world could compete with us. Now that we've fallen, we can't even protect the remains of our ancestors. Qing Dai's bright eyes dimmed, and she seemed a little sad. Don't worry. With me here, the Underworld Raja clan won't be bullied and humiliated again. Ning Fan patted his storage pouch and took out a palm-sized green boat. As soon as he pointed it at the sky, the small boat grew in the wind and instantly turned into a huge azure ship. The name of this boat was the Azure Heavenly Boat. It was made from the Azure Heavenly Wood. It was a mid-grade mortal void evasion treasure. It was powered by a formation and immortal jade. Its maximum speed was infinitely close to the Void Pierce stage. The Azure Sky Arc was also equipped with 12 Void Spirit cannons. As long as one spent some immortal jade, each of the Void Spirit cannons could fire a Void Inquiry stage attack. When 12 cannons were fired at the same time, even a Void Pierce stage expert would have to retreat. There was also a peak mortal Void Realm formation light installed on the ship. When the formation light was fully activated, it could even withstand the attacks of absolute Void Realm cultivators. I stole this boat from the vast glacial city, and I'll give it to you today. You can steer it and take me to the glacial nation. My primordial spirit is injured, so it's not good for me to show myself. I need to recuperate. For me. Qing Dai's face turned red. Clearly, she did not expect that Ning Fan would give her such an expensive gift. This heavenly azure boat was an extremely valuable escape treasure. When it was sold in Moon Cold City, it was sold for 5 billion immortal jades. She had been to Moon City before and had seen this sky azure boat. At that time, she was very tempted and wanted to buy this boat. But she had no choice but to give up when she saw the price. Even if she spent all her wealth, she still couldn't afford it. She didn't expect that Ning Fan would give her such a precious azure sky boat so casually. These immortal jades are for you. Every time we pass by a cultivation country, head to the biggest trading city of that country, and buy all of the tree god fruits there. I have great use for these fruits. If you come across any of the puppet materials recorded in this jade slip, buy them. Ning Fan then took out a storage pouch that was filled with immortal jades and a jade slip that recorded the cultivation materials, and handed them to Qing Dai. Qing Dai knew that Ning Fan would be busy with recuperating during the journey to the glacial nation, and would not show himself. Ning Fan asked her to buy the tree god fruits and puppet materials. Of course, she would not reject such a small matter. She scanned the jade slip with her spirit sense and carefully read the puppet materials recorded in it. Gradually, her eyes filled with astonishment. Her puppet mastery was very good. She could naturally tell that these materials were extremely rare and precious. Most of them were used to repair high-level spiritual puppets. Especially the last 12 materials, which were the most precious. They were definitely not the materials used to repair Void Refinement Realm spiritual puppets. Those were the precious materials that would only be used to repair Void Fragmentation Realm spiritual puppets. Each of them was extremely expensive. Big Brother Lu, are you buying these materials to repair Void Fragmentation Realm spiritual puppets? Although she was shocked, she did not ask further. She then scanned the storage pouch that Ning Fan gave her with her spirit sense. When she saw the number of immortal jades inside, she immediately covered her mouth and exclaimed, So many immortal jades. There were a total of 120 billion immortal jades inside the storage pouch. Some of them were obtained by Ningfan from the Rain Palace. Some of them were the rewards from the mission, and the rest were obtained from Teng Xianrou's storage pouch. As for the largest portion, it was naturally obtained from robbing 100,000 cultivation shops in the vast cold city. The vast cold city was a trading city that was jointly managed by more than 10 void refinement realm forces in the northern Tree Sea. Robbing a city would naturally bring him a huge harvest. There are so many immortal jades. I don't dare to take them. Qingdai gently bit her lips. She had never seen so many immortal jades in her life. Even a void fragmentation realm old monster might not have so many immortal jades. These immortal jades are not for you. Why are you so nervous? You are going to help me buy the tree god fruits and puppet materials. I'm sure the cost will be huge. Even though there are a lot of immortal jades here, it might not be enough. Alright, let's go. Ningfan's figure flashed and arrived on the azure sky ship. He entered the palace inside the cabin to meditate. Qingdai kept the storage pouch and the jade slip. Her thoughts were a little complicated and she could not explain it clearly. Ningfan giving her so much money was a sign of his trust in her. In a flash, she arrived on the azure sky ship. After placing enough immortal jades in the flying formation, she performed a hand seal and activated the azure sky ship to fly towards the vast cold country. Of course, according to Ningfan's order, she had to fly to the biggest trading city in the dragon-holding country first to purchase the items that Ningfan needed. The traveling light of the azure sky ship was like a painting that was painted in the sky. It drew a line in the sky and dyed the vast sky blue. While it was flying, the body of the ship was emitting a continuous drizzle. Along the way, it actually started to drizzle. Azure and misty rain. It was a very beautiful traveling light. Ningfan entered the palace inside the cabin and consumed a pill to meditate. According to his estimation, if the azure sky ship flew at full speed, it would take them at most 7 days to pass through 42 cultivation countries and arrive at the vast cold country. Adding the time that Qingdai needed to stop the ship to buy items along the way, it would take them at most half a month to arrive at the vast cold country. Under normal circumstances, half a month was not enough to fully heal the injuries of one's primordial spirit. However, now that Ningfan had a void fragmentation realm cauldron in his hand, it was not difficult for him to fully recover. With my current cultivation base, plucking a first heavenly layer void fragmentation realm cauldron won't be a problem. If I pluck all of Teng Xianrou's cultivation base, not only will my primordial spirit recover, but I can also increase my magic power by 1 million units. 1 million units of magic power. Currently, I am only 800,000 units of magic power away from the Void Pierce stage. If I have an extra 1 million units of magic power, I'm afraid that I will directly face the Void Pierce stage heavenly tribulation. Now that my spiritual puppet has yet to be repaired, I am not ready to face the tribulation yet. This is a little troublesome. Ningfan's eyes were filled with contemplation. 1 hour later, his body was filled with magic power. With a sway of his body, he entered the cauldron world. After the hard work of the female guards, a huge city with complete facilities was built in the cauldron world. Some of the female guards were cultivating in formations while others were learning pill refinement and weapon refinement techniques. They had already gotten used to the peaceful life in the cauldron world. There were no disputes and they cultivated peacefully. As soon as they saw Ningfan, Bingling and Yuling immediately welcomed him. They followed Ningfan's order and brought him to the Palace of Repentance. It was a huge palace made of white jade. The outside of the palace was filled with bewitching formations while the inside of the palace was filled with red mist. The red mist was exactly the same as the red mist in the heavenly dwelling of the Cauldron Ring. The sisters waited outside the palace while Ningfan entered the Palace of Repentance alone. This palace was only used to imprison cauldrons that were difficult to subdue, such as Old Ancestor by Tong of the Giant Devil clan, the red-haired lady who had the body of a flower devil, and Teng Xianrou, who had a void fragmentation realm cultivation base that was difficult to control. Ningfan stepped into the third palace that was shrouded in red mist. In the main hall, Tung Xianro, who was dressed in pink, was sleeping on the jade couch. The power of the Yin plucking finger was flowing inside her body. Her delicate body was tied up by the Yin imprisoning rope, and she was breathing in the red mist in the hall. She could not wake up at all. Ning Fan slowly walked to the jade couch and carefully observed Tung Xianro's sleeping face. Tung Xianro was dressed in a pink dress with flowing mist. Her long black hair was combed into a bun, and there was a pink lotus hairpin on one side of her head. Her sleeping face was calm. She had faint eyebrows and long eyelashes. However, her face was a little pale. She probably had yet to recover from the injuries she suffered during the battle in the Realm Passage. Even so, her beauty was still indescribably beautiful. When she is sleeping peacefully, perhaps no one would treat her as the palace lord of the Purple Vine Palace who had killed countless people. Ning Fan's eyes darkened and he remained silent. To be honest, he did not have any ill feelings towards this lady. If it wasn't for this lady who chased after him, he would not have to capture her. Since they were enemies, after he captured this woman, she would be his cauldron. There was no doubt about that. Ning Fan wanted to use this lady to heal his injuries. However, he was not willing to pluck her for the time being. He was afraid that he would trigger the Void Pierce stage Heavenly Tribulation in advance after he obtains 1 million units of magic power. Since that's the case, I can only choose a compromise. He raised his finger and gently touched the top of Tung Xianro's head. He wanted to confirm one thing. Only by confirming this could he use the method that would satisfy both sides. After he carefully examined her body, his eyes gradually revealed a satisfied look, and he said indifferently, "This lady's sea of consciousness is also in the shape of a sword. She possesses sword consciousness and sword sense. In that case, I can perform dual cultivation of my sea of consciousness with her." Dual sea of consciousness cultivation was a profound plucking technique recorded in the Yin-Yang transformation. The prerequisite for this technique was that the plucker and the one being plucked had the same special sea of consciousness. If one didn't cultivate a special sea of consciousness, one couldn't use this technique. If the two people dual cultivating have different sea of consciousness, they can't use this technique. Ning Fan cultivated the sword consciousness and sword sense, while Tung Xianro was a pure sword cultivator, who also cultivated the sword consciousness and sword sense. With this premise, Ning Fan could pluck Tung Xianro's sword sense through dual cultivation in his sea of consciousness. This kind of plucking technique did not require the user to harvest magic power. Naturally, it would not trigger the Void Pierce stage Heavenly Tribulation. Tung Xianro was a Void Fragmentation Realm cultivator. If he dual cultivates with her in his sea of consciousness, his spirit sense would certainly skyrocket. To him, who had the Psyche Soul incarnation, the improvement of his divine will was a great improvement in his strength. If Tung Xianro did not pluck her cultivation base, and only plucked her spirit sense, she would still be a Void Fragmentation Realm cultivator. If he manages to subdue him, he would have another Void Fragmentation Realm fighter by his side. Now that his spiritual puppet had yet to be repaired, it was always good to have a Void Fragmentation Realm helper by his side. After weighing the pros and cons, dual cultivation in his sea of consciousness was naturally more beneficial than plucking her directly. Ning Fan's eyes flashed with determination. He pointed a finger at Tung Xianro, who was in deep sleep. He did not untie the Yin imprisoning rope. He just slightly dispersed some of the Yin plucking finger's power. Tung Xianro let out a soft moan and slowly woke up. She had just woken up and was still a little dazed. The first thing she saw when she woke up was Ning Fan, who was standing beside the jade couch. All of a sudden, Tung Xianro felt as if a bucket of cold water was poured on her head. Her eyes swept across the ambiguous jade couch. Her charming face was filled with anger, and even a hint of panic. "Liu Bei, what do you want to do to me? You are my human cauldron. Tell me, what do you think I will do to you?" Ning Fan said with a faint smile. "You can't pluck me." Tung Xianro was a little scared. In her impression, Ning Fan's sort of speech technique was too powerful, and she was no match for him. Now she was under the effect of the bewitching technique, which was too powerful, causing her to be unable to mobilize any of her demon power. Currently, she was as weak as a mortal. She could not go against Ning Fan at all. If Ningfan plucked her, she would not be able to resist, and her void fragmentation realm would be forcefully plucked. That was the void fragmentation realm that she had painstakingly cultivated for many years. How could she bear to lose it? From Ningfan's point of view, plucking her was a matter of course. She was the one who chased after Ningfan first. Since they were enemies, there was no need to be merciful. She suddenly regretted. If she did not participate in the hunt for Ningfan, she would not have fallen into such a desperate situation. Her regret and fear fell into Ningfan's eyes. Ningfan's eyes darkened, and he suddenly said, "I can give you two choices. You might as well consider it." "What choices?" Teng Xianro was startled. "The first choice, I will pluck your cultivation base." Before Ningfan could finish his words, he saw Teng Xianro's pleading expression. "Don't pluck me." Ningfan ignored her and continued speaking. "The second choice, I have a special plucking technique. I can complete the dual cultivation of your sea of consciousness by entangling it with your sea of consciousness. This plan will not taint your innocence or destroy your primordial yin. What I'm plucking is your sword sense. This technique will only succeed if you actively cooperate with me. Once the plucking is successful, your sword sense will certainly collapse and your special sea of consciousness will disappear. As for me, my spirit sense will skyrocket. Which of the two choices will you choose?" As soon as Ningfan finished speaking, he did not say anything else. He calmly waited for Teng Xianro's reply. Teng Xianro's eyes showed signs of struggle. If she chooses the first option, her cultivation base will be completely plucked by Ningfan, and she will certainly fall to the void fragmentation realm. If she chooses the second option, the sword sense that she had painstakingly cultivated will collapse, and she will lose her special sea of consciousness. Both of the choices would cause her harm. However, after weighing the pros and cons, losing her sword sense was naturally a lesser price than losing her void fragmentation realm cultivation base. If she loses her void fragmentation realm cultivation base, she would be considered as crippled for the rest of her life. If she loses her sword sense, she would still be a void fragmentation realm cultivator. "I choose the second option." Teng Xianro gritted her teeth and said, "The second option, huh? Very good. Since you have made this choice, you have no choice but to accept my other condition. I want to plant a restriction on you and control your life and death. I will take you as my slave. From then on, you will follow me to battle, and I will preserve your void fragmentation realm cultivation base. This request is not too much, right?" "What? You want to plant a restriction on me and take me as your slave?" Teng Xianro was enraged. However, she clenched her teeth and forcefully suppressed her anger. She was a dignified void fragmentation realm old monster, who could run amok in the tree world. How could she be willing to let Ningfan control her life and death? If she allows Ningfan to plant a restriction on her, she would become Ningfan's slave and fighter from today onwards. She would no longer be able to disobey any of his orders. However, if she does not accept Ningfan's condition, she would certainly not have a good ending. She was like a fish on Ningfan's chopping block. There was no way she could disobey Ningfan's orders at all. She was hesitating and hesitating. At that moment, she would rather commit suicide than become Ningfan's slave. Ningfan saw Teng Xianro's expression. He thought to himself, "This woman does have some backbone. I shouldn't force her too much." As a matter of fact, Ningfan had already decided to dual cultivate with Teng Xianro in his sea of consciousness, and take her as his fighter. The reason why he gave Teng Xianro two options, and added another condition after she chose the second option, was actually to attack her mind step by step. To attack her mind, other than coercion, he also needed to tempt her with benefits. Ningfan could not blindly coerce her. 500 years. You will be my slave for 500 years. After 500 years, I will return you your freedom. Is what you said true? You will really return my freedom after 500 years? Teng Xianro was astonished. She had never thought that she would still have the hope of regaining her freedom after falling into Ningfan's hands. She was naturally unwilling to be Ningfan's slave. However, if it's just 500 years, she could still consider it. She could regain her freedom after enduring 500 years of humiliation. Compared to that, Committing suicide was obviously not worth it at all. Tung Xianro weighed the pros and cons repeatedly in her mind. She became more and more tempted. Losing her sword consciousness and 500 years of freedom. She could regain her new life after 500 years. If what you said is true, I am willing to let you plant a restriction on me and become your slave for 500 years. Tung Xianro finally made her decision. She knew that once she made this decision, her life and death would be tied together with Ning Fan's. From today onwards, she was no longer the palace lord of the Purple Vine Palace. From today onwards, she would turn against the Vine Sovereign. She might even join forces with Ning Fan to rebel against the Vine Sovereign. However, she had no other choice but to accept Ning Fan's condition. However, you must make a great heart devil oath and swear that you will return my freedom after 500 years. Otherwise, I won't be able to believe you. Tung Xianro added. I don't have the habit of making oaths. You can also choose not to believe me. Ning Fan's tone carried a hint of teasing. You. Tung Xianro clenched her teeth. She was in a disadvantageous position. She did not have any bargaining chips to make Ning Fan swear. No matter how she thought about it, she could only choose to believe Ning Fan. She could only pray that Ning Fan would return her freedom after 500 years. If Ning Fan goes against his promise, she could only accept her fate. Fine. I'll do whatever you say. Plant the restriction on me. Tung Xianro gritted her teeth and closed her eyes, looking like she was resigned to her fate. Ning Fan nodded his head and pointed at the top of Tung Xianro's head, planting the Fu Li demon restriction on her. It was Ning Fan's strongest restriction. To a demon cultivator like Tung Xianro, its control was even stronger. When Tung Xianro sensed the terrifying demon restriction in her sea of consciousness, she was extremely shocked. She had never seen anyone with such a powerful demon restriction. What kind of demon race is this Liu Bei exactly? What level is his demon blood? Why is the demon restriction he used so powerful? After planting the demon restriction, Ning Fan waved his hand and removed the Yin imprisoning rope on Tung Xianro's body, dispersing the Yin plucking finger force in her body. Tung Xianro's demon power gradually recovered. She propped herself up and sat on the jade couch, tidying her messy hair. Then, she sighed softly and closed her eyes. She activated her demon power and erased the vine seed in her body. After erasing the vine seed, the Vine Sovereign would no longer be able to detect her whereabouts. This meant that from this moment on, she had officially betrayed the Vine Sovereign. She no longer had a way out. All right, let's proceed with the dual cultivation of your sea of consciousness. I will try my best to cooperate with you. Tung Xianro closed her eyes and raised her head, looking like she was going to the execution ground. She had never heard of a cultivation method like dual cultivation of the sea of consciousness. From Ning Fan's words, dual cultivation of the sea of consciousness would only touch each other's sea of consciousness. There would not be any physical entanglement. Even though she understood this, she still felt a little nervous, deep in her heart. She was very disgusted with dual cultivation. However, she did not dare to show it as she was afraid of arousing Ning Fan's dissatisfaction. Ning Fan got on the jade couch and sat opposite to Tung Xianro with his legs crossed. Then he held Tung Xianro's soft palm with both of his hands. The cold and smooth touch did not feel like the hands of a sword cultivator at all. Instead, it felt like the hands of a young lady who had never done any chores. Your hands are well maintained. Ning Fan teased. You. Tung Xianro opened her eyes and glared at Ning Fan in embarrassment and anger. She wished she could skin him alive and eat him alive. However, when Ning Fan held her hand, traces of numbness rose in her heart. It was as if ants were crawling on her skin, causing her mind to be in a mess. After cultivating the Tao for 20,000 years, this was the first time a man held her hand. Her anger subsided slightly. It was the first time she carefully observed Ning Fan's appearance. She had never been interested in a man's appearance in the past. At this moment, however, she was slightly interested in Ning Fan's appearance. This Liu Bei looks not bad, she thought to herself. Then, she followed Ning Fan's instructions and slowly closed her eyes, spreading her spirit sense. Their sword senses were like two entangled water snakes. entangling each other tightly. A feeling of pleasure, comfort and shame that she had never felt before rose in Teng Xianrou's heart. In the world of her mind, she and Ning Fan were naked. They were hugging each other and entangling with each other. It was the materialized image of their dual cultivation of the sea of consciousness. Teng Xianrou wanted to cry, but no tears came out. Her physical body was not occupied, but her inner heart was completely tainted. What was the difference between this and being occupied directly? Just like that, she had dual cultivation with a man for the first time in her life. That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.